Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, here we go. Sunday stream, huh? Sunday streaming. All right. All right. Let's see if we got some coverage here for the Crew 9 docking. You saw the launch here yesterday. Looked to be a good launch. SpaceX seemed to have a little bit of a problem with the second stage though. But we'll see. Where is your hat?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Up there. Cooking fat, 21 months. What's up, RC? Another QC issue. Third grounding in 3 months. Where's your hair? It exists somewhere. It felt like giving more work to the FAA. Yep. Looking different without the hat. I was at a Concours d'Elegance car show in the city. I was watching the VOD of the launch. Thanks for the great content. Sure. Yeah. All right. So we will pick up the docking coverage. They've already started. Don't care. I've already been to one this year. You know what? We'll just roll with. Yeah, look good. Look good. I tried to look nice for the concours. I meant some very elegant lads. What was the second stage problem? Something happened during the deorbit burn that caused the stage to fall in not the designated area. So the second stage sort of went the little funky, our FAA mishap. Yeah, pretty much. The side combing's clean. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, it doesn't look bad. I have hats in case we need it, but you know what? Screw that. Let's pick up the docking coverage.
Once Dragon is docked.
Oh gosh, sorry about that. Probably should check the audio. SpaceX knows actually how to balance it, so it was overdriven.
Inside the pressurized
there we go.
The crew will then have to pressurize the vestibule.
It's okay if you're deaf now. I'm pretty sure NASA has the sign language, you know. Once Dragon is docked. Yep.
With the atmospheric pressures on Dragon and on the station. EPS will use a small valve on the station's hatch to slowly introduce air into the vestibule.
Let's see what we got.
Flight controllers here in Houston will monitor the pressure and temperature readings inside and verify that everything is leak-free before we get ready to open up the hatches.
Of course, preparation began prior to crew arrival to make sure they have somewhere to stay. The astronauts have available temporary campout locations known as casas that they can stay in until we're back to our usual 7 people living and working on station.
Yeah, so we're excited to get those 2 new crew members aboard and bring Expedition 72 up to 11 for 11 crew members for handover. So this is what Expedition 72 will look like once we have our Crew 8 return next week. These crew members arrived, obviously we have Butch and Sunny who arrived on Starliner, we have Nick and Alexander who are arriving today on Dragon, and then we have our other 3 crew members.
Okay, so that's Alexei Ovchinin, Sonny Williams, Barry Wilmore, Ivan Wagner, Don Pettit, Alexander Gorbanov, and Nick Hague behind me. That's your Expedition 72 crew. Coming back down is Matthew Dominic on Crew 8, Michael Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and the last gentleman, Grabenkin. Hey, RC, Tier 1 6 months in advance. 6 months in advance? Playoffs? 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 I'm talking about winning another game. Playoffs? Thank you. Appreciate that. RC, right on. Right on. You're going to miss Matt Dominic's Astro photos. Yeah, me too. But Don Pettit is pretty good at it. He's pretty good. Pretty good. Here, let me show you guys those. We got some high-res pictures from the first stage landing, or high-res video from Spacex. Oh, good. Ah, that's pretty good. I like what you do, so I must support. Well, thanks, RC. That really helps me out. Thank you very much. And as always, thank you for all the support with me and the NSF boys. They do appreciate it. If they hadn't made that clear, I'm pretty sure they have, but just in case. Did you see part 2 of the Pantera? Oh, yeah. Definitely fell asleep to that when I logged off early on Friday. Not gonna lie. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oof da May.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Italian cars. What do you want? It's got a nice engine, though. Or does it? Waglander, 12 months. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's get back over to the docking coverage. That's some sweet landing footage. So that was Crew 9. So in case you're wondering why I'm here on a Sunday, Crew 9 launched yesterday with Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov on board with 2 empty seats because they're going to join up with Barry Wilmore and Sonny Williams to do a long duration stay at, well, not basically a 6-month duration stay at the ISS. Butch and Sonny were there and they launched up on this crew CFT-1 test, and the Starliner capsule that they came up with, NASA wasn't sure if the thrusters were going to be okay with it, so they sent it back down with nobody on board and decided to just have Butch and Sonny become part of the regular crew. So we're about to see the Crew Dragon dock. Docking is actually it's a little ways out. It's about an hour and a half out, but the coverage has already started. So we'll go from there. 9 engines on re-entry? No, Eric, that was 3 engines to 1 engine for the landing. Yep, for the landing. Oh, come on, give me loud.
For crew, we always approach station in a really similar way.
Yep.
Now, speaking of these 2 vehicles, which are about to meet up in space, even though we had those earlier views where...
Freedom, SpaceX on the big loop, looking for you're okay to come back on board with cameras.
Freedom. Yeah, we're good with that. Apologies for not having you come on board earlier, but welcome aboard.
Copy.
Good news there that we should soon be getting views of our Crew 9 astronauts on board Dragon, suited up and ready to approach the station.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited that we did hear they were putting their suits back on earlier, and so they're going to get into some leak checks and make sure that everything is safe. They'll keep those suits on for the remainder of the approach to the International Space Station, all throughout docking. And then once we complete the docking and we're successfully attached to the space station, they'll have a chance to get out of those suits and probably into their flight suits or something else while we work to pressurize that vestibule and before we open the hatch. So again, we're targeting docking today around, let's see, I believe 1:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Getting close.
I'm trying to work on my time zones, but I feel like I'm in a bunch of different places.
Well, we're communicating with a bunch of different places
Yeah.
between here, Houston. Obviously, we've got the station on Greenwich Mean Time, so we're jumping around
Am I
across
sure?
the world a little.
Am I
The
sure?
good news is that for our Expedition 72 crew, Dragon is getting bigger in the window.
Do I
as it
look
gets
like
over
the kind
closer
of
to
melon
the
farmer that
ISS.
would be
Dragon's
unsure?
actually pretty big to begin with. The Dragon spacecraft and its trunk stand over 26 feet tall. There are 2 windows on the spacecraft, plus 1
3
on the
engines,
nose
baby. Watch, you
cone.
see
The
them
nose cone
flame out, right?
shortly after launch, so
There.
if you were with us yesterday, you heard us
See?
call out that major milestone.
3 engines to
which
1
allows us
engine.
to expose
Actually, it's
the
1 engine to
forward
3
roll
engines to 1
thrusters
engine
and
if you really
docking
want to know.
mechanism that will connect with the International Space Station. Dragon's trunk holds solar cells, which power Dragon while it's in free flight.
It's he's talking about the
Trunk will
entry,
also
not
carry
landing.
unpressurized
Oh,
cargo to the
the
station.
entry burn was 1.
Now,
It was
Dragon
1
has
engine and it was
16
very short.
Draco thrusters
Very
that
short
can be
duration.
used in space to help navigate the
Oh.
spacecraft to its destination, each providing
You're talking about that, but you're talking about the entry burn, but I'm showing the landing burn. Where did the entry burn come into play here? I'm confused. You're making my job harder on a Sunday, man. On a Sunday, I'm not even supposed to be here today. The entry burn was 1 engine. It was 1 engine, and it was a very short burn. Play.
Craft supporting human spaceflight missions that have docked to the station. Endeavour.
Not gonna lie, you're looking healthy. Give it the hard work. Thank you, Goonie. That's what happens when I get a good night's sleep. No, I was at a really, like, super, like, high-end car show. It was in Boston, and it's invitational only. And I know a guy who knows a guy who got invited. So I got to go. There was some, let's say there were some cars there that were out of my price range. Okay. Statler and Waldorf. Hello, how are you? Cup Classic. I'm not sure what the name of the show was, but it was really cool. It was pretty sweet. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. There was a 65 Lamborghini 350 GT there. Hey, Nightmare.
Go at throttle up.
Oh, check it out. Emperor EJ got a new hat. This one is the Bluetooth hat. What's up, Height? No Fords? Oh, there were Fords there. Actually, Jim, you want to hear what's funny? You want to hear something funny? There was a Pinto. A 2-door wagon Pinto with faux wood trim. Factory 2.3 4-speed car. 2-door wagon that actually won a Best in Show award, a freaking Pinto. But it was cool, man. It wasn't bad. It was a pretty cool car. Was there a VW thing there? There was not. There was a Porsche 356 Cabrio, and there was a 356 Coupe. Oh, hang on, comms loop.
Back with you in about 6 minutes to step into suit leak checks.
There was a Maserati Ghibli.
Single copies will be ready.
Maserati Ghibli was there. There was a bunch of cool stuff, man. It was a really, really cool show.
Good news for Mission Control there that we are about to step into those suit leak checks, but we are expecting a slight communications gap in our TDRS coverage. That's the call out you heard that we're expecting.
TDRS is the tracking data and relay system. It's just their handover between satellites before they do suit leak checks. They're going to do leak checks because you always want to be sure before docking that your suits are working in case of a cabin depressurization. Docking is still, you're still booping the space station, so you just, have the suits on, do the leak checks, make sure the suits are good. Once again, have it, not need it, not have it. It's better to just have them on. Forge, how's my fellow Sigma doing today? Did baby Gronk riz up, Livy done riz? How's your skibbity day going? I don't know what any of that means. Except for maybe the first 5 words. Gigs, dude, that 81 Malibu, Maslam, pretty cool. Can we ban Forge? I'm kind of coming down. I'm coming down in favor of doing that, mate. That hurt my head to read, dude. That hurt my head to read. I lost years hearing that, right, Vargon? Yeah, there was a lot of cool cars, man. A lot of cool cars. It was good stuff.
Results could provide critical knowledge about the risk of changes in inflammation.
Has to be only invitational car show I know of in Boston. I went back in 2019 and loved it.
To me how different
Your dad was a GM executive back then and knew some folks.
The opportunity to study these Earth-based processes.
Spoon, it was in Boston Common, right? If that is, it's Cup Classic. Yeah, the uncle is yeah, he got invited with his car. His 65 Corvette 396 4-speed. Factory side pipe, factory knockoff car. It's nice, to say the least.
Patches have been designed to cover some of that damage, and those will be installed during a future spacewalk, returning the instrument to around-the-clock operations.
Yeah, I went there, Spoon. It was pretty righteous, dude. There was some really nice cars. There was a Ferrari 575 Maranello 575M, which is the performance 575. So the car from Bad Boys 2, but on steroids. Yeah, pretty good stuff. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy show. How are you doing today, Chief? I'm great. How are you? Nader, hey, since I was in Florida to intercept the hurricane, I went over to the Cape and caught the Crew 9 launch afterwards. Wild, one of the best things I've seen in a long time. Now up in Tennessee, North Carolina to help search and rescue efforts with your drones. I definitely need to see more launches. It's magical, dude. The Space Coast is like hallowed ground for me. Nader, I love that place. I love it so much.
To a metabolic pathway that requires B vitamins to function properly. And when we have inefficiencies in this pathway,
Time to enjoy your favorite
the inner lining of blood vessels, and that can result in leaks that actually may contribute to vision change.
I would tip my cap, but as Forge would say, I have no cap on. No, that's not how you use that. It's still funny. Stop. Stop. Please.
Including Veg 01B, which demonstrated that outrageous red romaine lettuce is suitable for crop production in space. Plant Habitat 07 uses this lettuce to examine how moisture conditions affect the nutritional quality and microbial safety of plants. The advanced plant habitat controls humidity, temperature, air, light, and soil moisture, creating the precise conditions needed for this experiment.
I absolutely love
Sawyer's now on stream.
The veggie
I've been hanging around with Sawyer too much, dude.
That we have on the International Space Station. We have grown everything from zinnias. I don't know if you recall when
those are beautiful photos too.
They're so beautiful. If you haven't seen them yet, astronaut Scott Kelly, he spent about a year in space and he grew some zinnias and took some beautiful pictures in the cupola. And it's just such an amazing contrast of Earth and space, and it's so
now,
you can hardly.
Wait a minute, don't lie. How many people hear them say grow crops and go, huh? Yeah, I see you. I see you back there. And you're like, oh, lettuce. Yeah, that's good.
Now, there are currently nine astronauts and cosmonauts living aboard the International Space Station. They are Expedition 72. Of course, that includes the 4 Crew 8 members. They arrived in March 2024, and we expect them
Potatoes?
to return sometime next week.
Yeah,
We're still
and
looking at
disco
dates
music.
And weather and things like that. But stay tuned to nasa.gov for the latest updates on their return. That includes NASA astronauts Matt Dominic, Michael Barrett, and Jeanette Epps, as well as Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gurbenkin. So when Alexander Gorbanov gets there today, we'll have 2 Alexanders on board.
It's Gurbenkin, not Gorbenkin.
The Soyuz spacecraft that launched just a couple of weeks ago, we have NASA astronaut Don Pettit, and then Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner. And a really fun fact about Alexei.
Freedom SpaceX on the big loop for suit leak checks.
Freedom is with you.
Right,
And also with you.
You are go for suit leak checks per 4.011.
Have to go for suit leak checks.
Okay.
SpaceX Freedom on the big loop. Section 2, 2.2, ready to pressurize.
Okay. Suits are on.
SpaceX is with you. You are go for commanding 2.3. Initiate suit leak check.
Goody.
Freedom captain skill.
All right, so what they're doing now is testing the suits. You want to make sure these are the flight suits the space suits that they launched in the other day. Nick and Alexei are checking their suits on board, making sure they're not leaking or anything. Because once again, docking is you're still booping the space station, right? So you really want to make sure that you don't, like, just in case, if you they dock and it comes in like a little too hot, right? It could pinch a seal or something. You never know. You don't want to make. You don't want to.
Yeah, again, they do wear these suits.
Not be in a scenario where you're like, oh crap, we need the suits quickly, because they take a second to take on and put off, right? So it's better to just have them on. So right now, what they're doing is doing a leak check. This is basically the start of initiating docking operations for the most part. Oh. Also scramble.
And so during these dynamic,
just in case you boop a little too hard.
Initiation burn, and we're getting into docking when we're bringing 2 spacecraft together 260 miles above Earth. We keep our crew suited up and in their seats just in case they needed to take any actions like retreating or breaking out from the space station. But it seems like everything's going pretty smoothly so far.
Yeah, everything is going well today, but one of the cool things about the suits that the astronauts are putting on.
So what's with the Polaris Dawn Earth views video but no spacewalk views? They'll probably post it later.
And everything on board the suits is designed for the off-nominal case, so that even though hopefully everything goes the way it is today, really nice and smooth, we're ready for those off-nominal scenarios if they were to occur.
And those suits are custom tailored for each crew member. And they also provide different things. So there's an umbilical on the suit that connects to the seat itself. And when they were getting suited up yesterday, there's kind of a little briefcase that it can help connect to as well. And that provides them things like cooling. That's also their communications outlet. So they have the ability
Hang on, fellas. I'm just going to equalize out the audio here, make sure we're good.
When they are floating around the spacecraft, there is a microphone that they can grab and use at any time. So
I should be more audible than them at this point.
Talk to somebody.
But I got a little bit of feedback from yesterday about not muting them, just in case we hear, like, I can shut up for the comms loops, I can tie them back in.
Those IVA suits, which
now we
stands
should
for
be
intervehicular
equalized.
activity suits, won't be needed anymore. So once they're out of their suits and ready to go on board the ISS, those Dragon spacesuits.
Now it should be low. Are we good?
The remainder of the mission.
Everything all copacetic on the audio side of things?
An IVA or intervehicular activity suit, like you mentioned, and the EMU, the extravehicular mobility unit. An EMU is when you think of a spacewalk, and NASA astronauts out on a spacewalk and the International Space Station, you see a bigger, a bulkier suit. That's an EMU. But of course, we did see just a couple of weeks ago the first commercial spacewalk with with a new developed spacesuit, and that was still considered an
No
IVA
problem,
suit.
dude.
Is that correct, or is it
That's
considered?
an EVA suit.
Okay.
So that was basically an evolution of SpaceX's IVA suit that was designed specifically for the Polaris Dawn mission in support of that first commercial astronaut spacewalk that has ever been done, which was just, to me, so exciting to see. Because like you mentioned earlier, the spacewalks are, to me, the most exciting part of human spaceflight. You have this amazing communication between the astronauts outside of either the ISS or the capsule, working together, communicating with the ground. And it was great to see that not just on station, like we've seen it many times before and hopefully many times in the future, but also on board Dragon.
Now, again, we did lift off on time yesterday.
SpaceX
Just
Freedom on the big loop. 2 good suits.
SpaceX copies and concurs. At this point, we'll consider 4.011 complete, and that should also mean 4.010 complete.
We're tracking the same.
All right, good news. 2 good suit leak checks. That coming from NASA astronaut Nick Hague, who's the commander aboard Dragon right now. Again, 2 suits. It's he and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. So we're bringing the station residents up to 11 today.
I feel like that's going to make station kind of a party for
Here we go.
the next couple of days.
Onboard shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, check it out. That's the International Space Station, our home in low Earth orbit, and the destination of Dragon today. This point of view coming from Dragon itself. Now, we did hear earlier that the crew aboard the space station can also see Dragon at this time. So as we get a little bit closer, we might be able to see Dragon from the station as well.
All right, check this
and
out.
we're getting great views right now inside of Dragon.
So take a look here.
Screens as our 2 crew members begin to approach the ISS.
You have the approach ellipsoid right here, and then the keep out sphere. So think of the keep out sphere basically as your quote unquote no-fly zone. If you notice, like that's basically the no-fly zone over the airport, so to speak. If you notice, there's 2 triangles that are pointed up and pointed to the left. That is the R-bar runway and the V-bar runway. Those are the approach corridors for Dragon to be able to dock to the one of 2 IDEAs at the front of the space station. Actually, the thing that's pretty much right behind Gary right there. So basically at each waypoint, they'll stop before the approach ellipsoid, right? And then they'll move into the keep out sphere. They'll stop again at the keep out sphere, and then they'll dock. Once again, they were looking for a V-bar alignment, I think, if I saw that approach trajectory correct. So basically, they're going to go out in front of the space station and dock to the front of it.
Went over beautifully to sweep out right in front of the International Space Station in preparation for docking. In the meantime, the teams here in Mission Control Houston are preparing for the docking of the 2 crew members to the International Space Station to bring the orbiting complex's population up to 11. So in the past couple of hours, NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore got a head start on preparing some of the monitoring tools that are necessary from the inside of the International Space Station. While the 2 crew members are approaching the International Space Station, they're going to have help from across the United States, but also from aboard the orbiting complex. It'll be NASA astronauts Mike Barrett as well as Matt Dominic that are in the cupola monitoring the operations of
How long until docking, Olati?
Making their way to the International Space Station. Here in the room, though, we're following along. Teams are led by the flight director,
little over an hour,
who is leading the teams here for the docking operations. The voices that you're going to hear from Mission Control in Houston is Tess Caswell, one of the Capcoms. Sitting next to her is NASA astronaut Nicole Mann. Some of the voices you'll be hearing from here in the room.
Been up in space a couple of times.
The space station has to be prepared in such a way to receive.
And then there's the
Crew
cameraman.
9 Dragon Freedom. And so the ISS itself is being configured for its docking attitude. In fact, some of the SARJs, the Solar Alpha rotary joints, are locked and in a feathered position. They need to be maintained in a position for the docking operations. And in fact, there will be attitude control maneuvers to make sure that Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov make their way safely to the International Space Station. Everything's looking well on our side, and we're counting down to that approach initiation mid-course maneuver. And we're following along with the operations all along the way. Very soon we'll be entering inside the approach ellipsoid. Right now we've been undergoing joint operations, but once we're inside the approach ellipsoid, we're operating by joint flight rules, and we'll make those incremental steps to get those 2 crew members docked and on board the orbiting complex. With that, everything's looking good from here in Mission Control Houston. So I'll send it back over to you both in Hawthorne.
Thanks, Gary. Great to see how things are going in Houston, and it does sound like things are pretty smooth this morning. So again, standing by for that mid-course maneuver coming up in about 9 minutes. This view on the right side of your screen from Dragon itself, and that one from Dragon of the space station. That's where we're heading today.
It's really looking great. It has to be exciting after this whole
trying to show you again, but they're like,
if you
no,
wanted
no.
to join us for yesterday's webcast,
Here.
we did lift off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station just about 27 hours ago now, and our Crew 9 astronauts have been making their way to the International Space Station. Right now, everything is looking good, and we are tracking an initial contact between Dragon and the space station, which is expected here in just a little bit more than an hour.
If you take a look inside, you can see those 3 crew displays. That's how the crew is monitoring their approach to the International Space Station. They were able
here's the view.
watch
Here's the view. Here's the view. All right. Check it out. Check it out. So there's your keep out sphere, and see, there's the V-bar. Mother trucker. There's the V-bar alignment and the R-bar alignment up there. Go back. Change the channel.
It looks like they are flying 269 stations over the Tasman Sea in an orbital daytime.
So tired of this.
Great views here of both vehicles on your screen. Again, if you are just joining us, that is Dragon on the left-hand side and the ISS on the right. Of course, as we get a little bit closer to docking, Dragon's actually going to swing up in front of the station to approach the Harmony module,
I don't know what you're talking
which
about.
means that as great as this view of Dragon with the Earth in the background is, we are not going to have it as we get closer to docking because we are going to move up into that approach axis.
And once Dragon gets to the Harmony module, it'll be docking on the Node 2 forward port. That's the most forward port on the International Space Station. There is another that is the Zenith port, or that's the space facing port. And that is where the Crew 8 Dragon is docked right now. So there'll be 2 Dragons for our crew members on the space station once Crew 9 arrives today. However, not for long, because we are expecting this handover period to take just about a week. That allows the Crew 8 astronauts to bring the Crew 9 crew members up to speed, make sure that they are ready to take over everything that they've been working on over the last several months. So once that handover period is complete, obviously we also have to take a look at what the weather looks like here on Earth, because this is a splashdown.
Keep that up there.
Need to make sure everything is good around the coast of Florida, whether that's on the Gulf side or the Atlantic side, whatever we choose to target for the return of Crew 8 before we send 4 crew members home. And that'll bring us back down to 7 people living and working on the space station. Now, we've had 9 most of the summer with Butch and Sunny joining the space station crew, but once we say farewell to Crew 8, we'll be back down to 7, and we consider...
Come on, come back now. Y'all come back now.
Average complement.
Welcome for the crew on board, in no small part because, as you mentioned, we've had a couple of additional people above that standard contingent on station all summer, meaning there's a lot of scientific research that's been going on, and I'm sure a lot of very detailed handoff operations that need to take place.
Now, again, I mentioned we are in an orbital daytime right now, and so the International Space Station sees about 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. When they cross over from day to night, that's called the Terminator line. And so they see a beautiful sunrise, and we have that for about 45 minutes before they move into a nighttime. But one thing that you have to be conscious of when you send crew members to space is the circadian rhythm. So there are actually specially developed lights on the International Space Station to simulate different times of day. That way, as they move throughout their day, you know, we're used to when the sun sets here, that means the day is over. But if you see it 16 times that day, it could be a little bit confusing. So some of those lights help regulate the body's responses to what time of day it is, and even wind down in the evening.
It would be incredible to get the opportunity to watch sunset every 90 minutes, though. I think that would be an exciting aspect of being on space.
You would have to pull me out of the cupola. Now, I just got an update that the mid-course maneuver is in work, so we are standing by. Again, a small burn like this one just helps us retarget or realign the International Space Station as we continue moving ever closer. If you squint really hard on the left side, you can see that the nose cone is open on Dragon. That happened shortly after launch yesterday, maybe about 12 minutes after launch, or 13 minutes, we started opening that nose cone, and that protects the hatch while we are launching. But once we're in space, obviously we want that exposed so that as we get to the space station today, we can connect the two spacecraft together and eventually
of course,
welcome
Tessa.
our 2 new crew members on board.
The next major milestone we're tracking on our flight today is expected to be Dragon's arrival at waypoint 0, just about 20 minutes from now. Again, waypoint 0 is going to be one of those first checkpoints during our approach to the station.
Yep. So 20 minutes HD.
Dragon can hold there at 400 meters at waypoint 0, but if all of its systems check out, Dragon can continue on its approach to waypoint 1.
Yep.
Now, waypoint 1, or the Dragon's move from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1,
I showed
that
you
swings
all
it
of them,
up and
Tessa.
out in front of the station, arriving at a distance of approximately 200 meters, and 220 meters, I should say, because that puts it
I got
on
more.
what we call...
Freedom Spacex on the big loop. Mid-course correction maneuver is complete. Performance nominal. The trajectory has converged on waypoint 0.
Okay. Check it out.
Good turn and converse to waypoint 0.
See, there's
All
the
right,
adjusted
just as we were
trajectory to
discussing
line
it,
up.
It really just refines that trajectory, and it's putting them
See?
up toward waypoint 0. So that's our next major milestone. But once we move past waypoint 0 and to waypoint 1, again, that's about 220 meters directly in front of the space station. So that puts us on the docking axis, which essentially means it's directly in front of the docking port. And again, today they are headed to the forwardmost port on station. That is node 2 forward. So again, Dragon is docked to node 2. We call it Harmony for all of our crewed missions so far, because that's where both international docking adapters are located. And these are installed for new commercial spacecraft flights, as well as any other future spacecraft that use the international docking standard.
These views we're getting of Dragon right now are incredible, with the clouds on Earth in the background.
Yeah, let's take a look. It looks like they are actually flying 264 statute miles just north of New Zealand. So if we didn't have those clouds, we might have gotten a really beautiful look at New Zealand below. I'm sure they'll get plenty of chances over the next 5 months as they look out the cupola.
Moving forward in our timeline today, once Dragon is only 20 meters away at
Firebird.
waypoint 2,
44
the
months.
spacecraft focuses on
Discovery,
aligning
throttle up.
its docking system with the International Docking Adapter, or IDA for short. We may hear the call-out CHOP over the nets,
Crew
which
hands
stands
off.
for Crew Hands Off Point, a little less than 30 seconds before docking. At that point, any aborts would have to be done automatically by Dragon.
Of course,
didn't
once
see
we
it,
get
Artsy.
that close to the space station, the next major milestone is crew arrival.
Yeah, it's
so docking.
pretty good view.
Dragon will fly in
Not
and
anymore.
make contact with the International Docking Adapter, and that's what we call soft capture. That soft capture ring will then retract until sensors
Yeah, there
indicate
she
it's
is.
time for 12 hooks to drive in place and give us the hard capture that will firmly secure Dragon to its new home on the International Space Station. The space station crew, it'll be mainly NASA astronaut Jeanette Epps, will manually pressurize the vestibule, or the area between the Dragon hatch and the station hatch. But I feel like we always see a handful of crew members floating in and out, helping out with that effort. I think it's a pretty exciting time for everyone when new folks arrive at the
You
station.
hate heights, Blackburn.
So while they're pressurizing that vestibule, the umbilicals that provide power, audio,
I'm not
and
controlling
data
the cameras, James.
communications
Come
and
on.
connections from the station to Dragon are put in place. And then it's time for the leak checks and the hatch opening, which is currently timelined to come a little more than 2 hours after docking. Again, targeting docking today
come back.
around
Come
2:30
back.
p.m. Pacific time, so just about an hour from now.
Don't.
Now, our next call-outs we expect to hear a little less than 7 minutes from now are the go and no-go for waypoint 0 approach. Again, we don't have
This
to
is
stop
on the
at
ISS,
waypoint 0,
looking at
but
the
they have
Dragon.
the opportunity if they need
The
to.
Dragon right now is kind of like
Station Houston on the big loop. Dragon range is approximately 1,000 meters. Monitor long range approach per steps 1 to 4.
Discovery,
in
go and throttle up.
1.102, Dragon approach and retreat monitoring. ISS crew is now back up for vehicle approach monitoring.
it's okay, Supersonic. I'm good in the vacuum.
Presentation copies 1.102, step 1.
Here we go. So right now, Dragon's about a kilometer below the ISS, and what it's going to do is it's going to move up to line with the docking ports. Or the docking
Currently
port.
aboard the International
should say.
Space Station itself, it's about 8 p.m. because they use GMT or Greenwich Mean Time. And so it
problem,
is
Blackbird.
winding down most of the day for our crew members on orbit. However, like we mentioned earlier, NASA astronauts Matt Dominic and Mike Barrett will be in the cupola and helping to monitor.
So you should see the
arrival
horizon
of
come up
Dragon.
here
But as we just heard,
sooner
a
rather than
reminder
later,
that
because once
really,
again, Dragon is slowly
Nick and
moving
Alexander
like
are prime
this.
for monitoring the arrival of their spacecraft. The crew on the space station could send any retreat commands to Dragon if they
I have it up,
absolutely
Thomas. I'm
needed
waiting
to,
for waiting for
we
Dragon to pop into
expect
view.
that our crew members inside the spacecraft itself would be prime for that. And we did just have a satellite handover. So we use the tracking data and relay satellite systems aboard the International Space Station. These are positioned at different locations, and as we hand over from one to another, it's all planned and tracked, but it means we do lose some video communications at some points, and sometimes even audio.
How many miles of ground passes underneath in a second?
They're back, yeah. We are, of course, tracking Dragon.
They're like 5 or 6 miles a second.
So that means we're adjusting
I think.
manually periodically.
Somewhere around there. Hey, Kelly, 68-month resub. Thank you.
But when Dragon does come back into view, you'll have a really good view of that forward. There we go. That forward nose cone opens so that we can see that docking adapter, which is what, of course, we will use to mate to the ISS, first through that soft capture, then that hard capture. And then when we open up the hatch a couple of hours later, that is the section of the spacecraft that our 2 astronauts will move through as they join the Expedition 72 crew.
I did just get a notification that we are inside the AE, or the approach ellipsoid. Again, that is the first of those invisible boundaries around the International Space Station that we monitor. That means that if Dragon, before it has the go to approach or go inside the AE, it has to be 24 hours safe. So if it were to somehow lose control of its thrusters, it would take 24 hours for it to move inside that approach ellipsoid. So the next of those invisible boundaries is the keep out sphere. It's a little bit different.
This is what you'd call a Sigma docking? Please stop doing that. It's worse than puns, man. Oh God! Do you know how many Zoomers we just Nick Hague attracted to spaceflight with that? I mean, I can't be upset, but also at the same time, just oh man.
We've said it already on this particular webcast, but it's worth repeating that the approach ellipsoid is significant. In large part
Ruinous.
because
That's right. I
vehicles are
don't
both
have a
moving
cap
so fast. Again, the approach ellipsoid
That's what that
is
means,
about 2
right?
kilometers by 2 kilometers by 4 kilometers. But in terms of spacecraft orbital dynamics, that's actually pretty close. In no small part because both Dragon and the International Space Station right now are traveling more than 17,000 miles per hour, which also means they're orbiting the Earth roughly every 90 minutes.
What does that mean, Nick? I don't know what that means.
And again, I just mentioned that these
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Console. I have the full definition now. That one's always hard for me to remember, but it stands for Communication Radio Frequency Onboard Network Utilization Specialist. So you can't blame me if I can't spat it out right away. But yes, our team members at that console are providing us great views of Dragon and usually do such a great job.
Freedom SpaceX on the big loop. Ground is go for approach 0 and we'll be enabling the maneuver shortly. Expected approach 0 start at 204530 Zulu.
Okay. Approach ellipsoid in 9 minutes.
Copy 204530 Zulu, and we see the flag.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna. Oh, let me just cut the audio in for a second there. Oh, all right, that's the Sigma. I like that car. It's a great car. All right, so here's the thing, guys. If you're not familiar with ISS docking, all right, Dragon is kind of like down below the ISS right here, and it's not going towards it. It's kind of going
all right, so
around it here.
A little bit about this mission. You know, we have what most people are familiar with is the idea of a mission patch.
There are kind of like corridors for approaching. Think about it like an airplane lining up with a runway, right? If you're a pilot, the tower will tell you where to go to, fly to this waypoint to align with this runway to approach, right? And then there's obviously like parts of an airport you don't fly over, right? Like, definitely don't just fly randomly over an airport. They'll get mad at you. The FAA will come and be like, here's some paperwork. No, so the ISS is kind of the same way. There's kind of two runways that Dragon could take, right? There is, like, if this is the ISS and this is the orientation, so Earth is down here, ISS is here, this is the front of the ISS, right? There is the V-bar alignment, which is the velocity vector, right? And then there's the R-bar alignment, which is the radial vector, right? Radial is up and down, zenith and nadir on the ISS, and then V-bar is obviously forward and aft, right? So there's no aft docking port and there's no nadir docking port for Dragon. There's one on the zenith of node 2, and then there's one on the prograde vector of node 2, right? But obviously Dragon could go up to the second one and dock that way, but they're not going to. There's a Dragon there already. The Crew 8 Dragon's already there. So the open port is on the front. So they're gonna, right now what they're doing is slowly kind of skirting around, basically doing the pilot equivalent of a heading alignment, right? And they're moving up here, and they're getting to a waypoint, which is basically on the edge of like the airspace for the ISS. It's called the keep out or approach ellipsoid, right? And then, once everything is good, and NASA and SpaceX decide that Dragon is good for a docking, right? They'll enter the approach ellipsoid, and then when they get closer, they'll enter the keep out sphere, which is like you only go near the ISS on the V-bar and the R-bar. The keep out sphere is there, basically the no-fly zone, so to speak, around the ISS. So right now Dragon is going, oh man, what a shot. They're basically moving up to do more or less a heading alignment here. And then once they get to that waypoint, they'll move in, and then they'll get to the keep out sphere. And if everything is still good, they're going to dock to basically the very front of the ISS. Yeah, no crosswind approaches here.
Waypoint 1 in just a couple of minutes. So standing by for those calls.
So Butch and Sonny must wait 4 to 6 months so they can go home again. Yeah, Hoffa, that's right. NASA decided that the best solution there was to have them just do a regular duration stay. I'm sure they're really upset about that. I mean, oh, you get to stay at the space station for 6 more months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, but yeah, that was the solution here. Launch this capsule with 2 people on board, Commander Nick Hague and pilot Alexander Gorbanov, and then come down with Nick, Alex, Butch, and Sonny in February. Yeah. That's the safest solution, because that basically doesn't mean you're launching any more or less to the ISS. You got to remember, like, an important thing to understand here is that the ISS has a logistical supply chain, right? Think about it like a hub where stuff is, ships are coming, ships are going, ships are docking. You don't want to send up something, A, you don't want to do it quick, and B, you don't want to screw with the supply chain, because the supply chain is what's keeping your science going, for instance, and also giving the astronauts food, water, stuff like that. That's important. If you think about the macro picture of ISS logistics, this is the best way to do this. This ship's already coming up there. It's already coming up there. It's the next scheduled mission. It makes the most sense. It kind of sucks that Xena and Stephanie got bumped because of this mission. I'm sure and we saw NASA ask them, oh, hey, are you pissed? It's like, all right. But, yeah, a little bit. I don't be surprised. But also, this was basically that's the best move. The reason why it's the best move is because you don't want to screw with the supply chains. The second you put another ship up there, is now you're playing musical chairs with incoming and outgoing spacecraft, right? So that, they have to stay up there for basically till February, but this was the best way to not screw with the ISS logistics.
be flying overhead and where to locate them. There's now kind of a trajectory path. It'll help you by using your camera, and it'll align with the space station, so you know exactly where to look. But it's hard to miss once you're outside, because I believe it is the second brightest object in the night sky, only second to the moon itself.
I'm always impressed when I see the ISS go over. It is much brighter than you would expect it to be, so there's no mistaking it for a plane or anything like that. And obviously the Spot the Station app is really helpful in making sure that you don't miss it when you can see it.
Truly, it is unmistakable. Once you see it coming over the horizon, you're like, that is definitely it. And part of that, really, the reason you can see it so well is because of the size of the solar arrays on it. So you can only see it in dusk and dawn when it is dark outside, but the sun is still reflecting on those solar arrays. So it is just like a bright, beautiful star coming across the sky. And like you mentioned, there's no blinking light on it. So when you see it, you know it's not a plane. This is where we will have, once these two arrive today, we will have 11 people living and working.
That is actually what Leah just said right there. That is the best way to figure out if you're, like, if you look up in the sky, you see something moving. If there's no strobes, it's most likely a spacecraft or a satellite. Spacecraft don't have strobes. Planes have strobe lights. So if you see something blinking, it's an airplane. That's pretty straightforward stuff. But yeah, if you see something that looks like an airplane that is shining really bright and it's dawn or dusk, it's most likely a satellite or probably the ISS. The ISS is, they're right. You can see it. It's pretty easy to see. Like, if you have good vision or you got really good glasses on, you can see the solar panels. Naked eye. It's hard to make out, but you can see them. They're there. With a telescope or a really good camera, you can absolutely see it, which is really, really cool. You're just like, wow, that's pretty neat, you know?
Now, again, just a recap of where we've been so far. Yesterday, we launched on time at 10:17 a.m. Pacific time, and about 45 minutes after liftoff at 11:03 a.m. Pacific, Dragon executed the phase burn. That was the first of 5 major burns required to raise Dragon's orbit and position it for approach to the International Space Station. Dragon raised its orbit using those Draco thrusters over the last several hours as it chases down its destination.
There's the approach ellipsoid
and then shortly after that,
sphere.
The boost burn took place at 7.
Please excuse the crudity of this graphic. We didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it.
Dragon's apogee, or the highest point, was about 10 kilometers lower than the station.
Oh, yeah,
but before
Dan.
we can approach the space station, we need Dragon's entire orbit, not just that highest point, to be effectively shadowing the space station. So after that, we executed the close co-elliptic burn at 8:42 p.m. Pacific. The close burn placed Dragon on an orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station, meaning it was maintaining an orbit roughly 10 kilometers lower than the station, or roughly 6 miles, the entire way around the Earth. Again, that's in contrast to only being 10 kilometers lower than the station during Dragon's apogee, or the highest point in its orbit, which was achieved by that previous boost burn.
From there, this morning at 7:54 a.m. Pacific, we executed the 4th major maneuver known as the transfer burn. That's where we raised Dragon's apogee, or the highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers lower than the station. Then we conducted the final co-elliptic burn at 8:41 a.m. Pacific to once again maintain a constant orbit lower than the station all the way around. Again, that time just 2.5 kilometers below. That burn lasted just over 30 seconds. We also added in the approach out of plane burn at 11:30 a.m. Pacific to further refine Dragon's trajectory to the space station.
During this approach, SpaceX flight controllers will work in tandem with the NASA team in Houston to maneuver Dragon Freedom to the proper altitude. And we've already heard a lot of conversation back and forth between both teams on the nets already. Together, they'll initialize the navigation sensors used for this methodical approach to station. They'll also activate and test out a number of systems on Dragon, including bidirectional communications with the station using the C2V2 system. C2V2 stands for Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles, and it sets up a data stream from Dragon to the station, giving us another path for Dragon telemetry to come to the ground.
Sorry about that.
At approximately 1:01 p.m. Pacific, we saw Dragon fire the approach initiation burn when we were about 2.5 kilometers below the station and about 7 kilometers behind it. That is swinging Dragon up until it's about a quarter mile directly below the station. That's also moving Dragon inside the approach ellipsoid. So we did hear a confirmation of that shortly earlier. That's also called the AE, an imaginary shape measuring 4 by 2 by 2 kilometers and essentially a large three-dimensional oval. The capsule was considered to be on what we call a 24-hour safe trajectory.
I have the
that means
Send
if
stream
Dragon
up. I am
somehow
watching
lost
it.
control to all its thrusters, it would be at least 24 hours before its trajectory would move inside the approach ellipsoid.
Next up, we're standing by to hear the NASA and SpaceX teams do
live my life a quarter pounder at a time. For those 10 bytes or less, I'm free.
Around the station, this time with a radius of just 200 meters. Flight controllers use this to monitor all arriving and departing vehicles. This is another chance to confirm that all of the guidance, navigation, and control systems are working correctly on Dragon before moving closer to station. Great views now on your screen of Dragon both outside the capsule and inside the capsule as we are looking over the shoulder of our 2 Crew 9 members on board Dragon.
Biblically accurate ISS. I got it.
The keypad sphere carries a similar requirement to the approach ellipsoid that if Dragon were to somehow lose control of its thrusters, it and the space station would be safe for 4 orbits, or about 6 hours,
not you too.
rather than the 24 hours required to enter the approach ellipsoid.
Space toilet.
Once Dragon arrives at 400 meters below the station, it will be at what is known as waypoint 0, and we're standing by for that confirmation now. That's our first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle can either hold there at 400 meters, but if all of its systems check out, it can also continue on its approach to waypoint 1.
And I just got an update as you were saying that we are now in waypoint 0. So now that we are here, we will move up to waypoint 1. That'll swing Dragon up and out in front of the station, arriving at a distance of approximately 220 meters. That'll put us on the docking axis, so that means we'll be directly in front of the docking port. And again, we're going to node 2 forward. That is the forwardmost port on station. Dragon is always docked to node 2, also known as Harmony, because that is where the IDAs are, or the International Docking Adapters, and that is for all of these commercial...
So, yeah, that's what Lee's talking about. There's waypoint 1's approach ellipsoid, waypoint 2 is a keep-out sphere, and then they're on the V-bar alignment. So, once again, if the ISS is pointing this way, there's the forward-facing docking port, and then there's the upward-facing docking port, okay? Can't dock to this one. Crew 8 Dragon's docked to that one, right? So, Dragon, okay, hey, come back. So, what the Crew 9 one, what Nick and Alexander are going to do is move up to the V-bar alignment, which is basically one of the 2 runways for Dragon to approach at. And once they're locked into the V-bar, they'll start moving forward. That's when you'll see a lot of thruster firings here. Right now, Dragon's just kind of coasting. There are some slight thruster pulses here to maintain attitude because Dragon is basically initiating a rotation rate at 1 rotation per orbit right now on the pitch axis. So what it appears to be doing is pointing at the ISS the entire time. It's a very, very trick way of doing things, basically using differential eccentricity to get up in front of the ISS. And then if they kept going, they would go back down, right? Basically, Dragon's orbit right now is a little bit elliptical, right? And the ISS is perfectly circular. And if you draw, picture that elliptical orbit in your mind with the high point being at the height of the ISS, just right out in front of it, it's going to appear to go up and then go back down. Right now, they appear to be going up. It looks like they're basically flying around the space station, but in reality, Dragon is just, see, right there. That's their trajectory, that little thing that kind of looks like a cursive L. If you see that is actually changing. That's changing with the thruster firings, but they're only doing very, very small thruster firings because you don't need to change much here. Look, Alex is looking at a picture of them. He's tapped into the live stream, which is super cool. But if you see, they're basically dialing in the trajectory to get to the next waypoint to line up with the approach, the V-bar approach.
getting these incredible views that we're seeing now, but they have the backup capabilities and a connection with the Dragon to execute any abort abilities. But right now they're just monitoring. Everything looking fantastic aboard the Dragon and its approach to the International Space.
Now, chat, you're looking at now. Everything you see happening now is happening now. Then, oh, you missed it. Just now. You're at now. Soon. Spaceballs. Oh, shoot. There goes the planet.
Thrusters have been moved over to the Russian thrusters, and the attitude is in an expected
happened to
configuration optimal for the docking of Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov to the International Space Station, which you're seeing there on the screen to your right. And of course, seeing views of the International Space Station all along the way.
That's right. He could grow potatoes, though, like pretty dang well. The radar, sir.
Now, a little bit more about what to expect once the Dragon moves in front of the docking axis. That waypoint 1 is right outside an area that's called the Keep Out
What's
Sphere.
better on your time sub or normal sub? The normal sub, I get a bigger cut.
We're providing updates of the
but it's recurring,
teams that
so
are working together.
Check your expenses,
sure that
homie.
the crew is safely approaching the International Space Station, and all requirements are being passed before proceeding to go to the next milestone. That milestone of
blocking our
waypoint 1
view
is
of
just
Venus.
outside the Keep Out Sphere. Once we're inside the Keep Out Sphere, which is about 180 meters away from the International Space Station from the docking axis, then we're in a new set of flight rules. We'll plan to pause at about the waypoint 2 marker. This is just about 20 meters in front of the docking axis. If everything looks good, it'll just be a short changeover in the mode to enable the final approach for contact and capture with the forward port of the International Space Station.
6 months in advance, Fish? Yeah, that really helps me, dude. Jeez.
In Hawthorne.
How far are we from docking?
Mission Control, Leah and Ronnie, and we'll take coverage
about 40
here
minutes.
in Mission Control Houston to oversee the hatch opening
if everything
and welcome ceremony operations.
So, guys, docking is scheduled for 5:27 p.m. It's now 4:51 p.m. where I am. So, don't worry about time zones. I got you. Just it's about 40 minutes, give or take. We're a little inside of 40 minutes right now. I think 36 minutes and change. If everything goes, if they get to each waypoint and everything's good to go, NASA and SpaceX and then the Dragon's onboard computer kind of all agree that everything's good, that could happen faster. There's leeway built into the time scales here in case something goes a little wonky.
On your screen where the space station is pointed, it will remain pointed in that position. You can see the solar rays that are sort of the wings from this perspective of the Crew 9 Dragon Freedom vehicle. Those solar alpha rotary joints that control the solar arrays on the International Space Station have been locked, and they'll be in that position to avoid any uninterrupted communication and maximize our TDRS coverage views and the beautiful views we're getting from both the station as well as the Crew 9
Dragon is making slight adjustments to its trajectory to basically center itself on that triangle right there. That's the V-bar approach.
Now in the dual view you'll see the views from the station and
how do you know it's Washington? I have the ISS track up, think like.
That's expected as both vehicles are traveling 17,500 miles per hour.
What a shot.
Dragon cabin views.
We do not want any earth-shattering kabooms
positioned strategically around the Earth.
No, we don't want that.
So we'll be sharing some of the views from inside the Dragon cabin as we get them, as they are beautiful views, and it's wonderful to see over the shoulders of Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov the views of from the International Space Station that we're seeing now as Crew 9 Dragon passes over the Earth are covered by the tracking data and relay satellites. These are
it's only 400 kilometers away, Q. It's not that far. They're not that far up there, dude.
20,000 miles from the Earth, whereas the vehicles we're seeing now are approximately 250 miles. Now you see we'll be having some intermittent loss of that video coverage. That's expected. As we orbit the Earth, the antennas will be hopping from one of the TDRS satellites to the other, and we'll be providing as much coverage as we can. During docking operations, we do make sure that our KU band frequency capabilities to provide the beautiful video that we see is maximized, but we will have incremental loss, and so we're experiencing that now as we continue with ground station coverage from the Dragon itself, providing these views of the International Space Station. As Dragon swings out and up in front of the International Space Station, we're starting to get views of that Zenith port.
Oh,
the other
look
Crew
at that.
Dragon
That's Crew 8
is,
right there. That's
docked.
so legit,
Dragon
dude.
Endeavour docked to the Zenith port of the International Space Station. The Crew 8 astronauts.
So how does Dragon know where it is in space? Blackbird, is that a real question, or are you memeing right now? I'm serious. I can tell you. I can tell you if you want, but I'm guessing GPS. Real question. No, ground stations. Ground stations and what's called inertial navigation. Dragon has inertial measuring units on it, which basically keep track of. They basically keep track of the accelerations, how much you're pushing in one direction or another, and it logs that and it adjusts its where it thinks it is based off of the thruster firings. Also, ground stations. It does not use GPS to my knowledge, believe it or not. Yeah, I try to be good, Mickle. Doom converted a prime sub to a tier 1. Thanks, man. That really helps me out. Really, you guys have been very good to me lately. I really appreciate it. It knows where it is because it knows where it isn't. That's delicious. That's why I had to ask if it was a real question, because I don't know when somebody's screwing with me or not. It's above GPS, isn't it? No. GPS is in semi-synchronous orbit, Tessa. It's 12,000 miles up. They're 270 miles up. So, no. The GPS is still above them. Dragon could use GPS, but I think it might be easier to use the IMU. Oh, excuse me.
Being transmitted from the Dragon to the International Space Station. Status of that link will be provided over the Dragon to Ground and its big loops, Dragon to Ground loops and big loops, as we make our way around the Earth and continue with our coverage of the approach and docking. We're now over the continental United States, about 260 statute
It was 6 months in
miles.
advance, too. You're too good to me, man.
Northern continental United States,
I
getting some great views as Dragon makes its way towards the docking axis. Station and Dragon, almost directly over the northern border of North Dakota. We're getting views in the distance.
We should start seeing the Great Lakes here in a second. Yeah, Horizon's going to come into shot slowly, HD. Yes.
From this view.
Didn't one of the shuttles use Dragon Eye? No, Dragon Eye was installed by a space shuttle.
On the outside of the International Space Station.
That's exactly what's going on, Moo.
The camera zoom and focus and aperture being controlled by flight controllers here on the ground. In fact,
Then cam, lower right. There it is!
Houston. That position is called the Cronus. They have autonomous control of the
I see it. Oh, that's so legit, dude.
Pan, tilt, and zoom functions of the external cameras to provide these great views.
How many capsules can be docked at the same time on the ISS? Only, so Hafa, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots for Soyuz and Progress spacecraft. There is 2 spots for Cygnus spacecraft, or Cygnus or Dream Chaser. And then there's 2 spots for Dragon or Starliner. I think. Pretty sure. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Yeah, 4. 4 for Soyuz Progress. So there's 4 what's called SSVPs, which is what the docking ports that the Russian spacecraft use.
Closing in on 4 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. over there.
The resupply and the crewed spacecraft on the Russian side use the same docking port. It's called an SSVP. Soyuz, Super Soyuz docking port, Russian. Anyway, so there's 4 SSVPs, and then resupply craft like Cygnus and uncrewed Dream Chaser use what's called a CBM, a common berthing mechanism. There's 2 spots for that. There is the Nadir Node 1 port and Nadir Node 2 port, basically on the underside of the ISS. And then Dragon and Starliner use what's called an NDS, or a NASA docking standard. if you look at that black ring on the front of Dragon, this guy right there, that's the NDS. Dragon and Starliner use the same docking ports. There's 2 of them up there.
The docking axis. The docking axis is immediately.
Yeah. So how many could be docked? Theoretically, you could have 8 spacecraft docked to the ISS. They never do that though. I mean, sometimes it might. There it is, HD, just like I told you.
And Endeavour again will undock in approximately.
Man.
This allows for a seamless handover of the Crew 9 crew and the Crew 8 crew before their departure. Endeavour is currently configured with extra seats for Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, both NASA astronauts, who are scheduled to return.
International Docking
Crew
System
9
Standard.
Dragon.
Yeah,
those seats
the NDS is
for
part of the
emergency
IDSS
capabilities,
standards.
just in case.
You could say it's
We're not
NDS
going to be using
because
them though,
it's
because the
it's
Dragon
NASA.
and
They're the same
Freedom
thing,
is well
so-
on its way to the International Space Station with those 2 empty seats. Upon
Freedom, SpaceX on the big loop. C2V2 transit rate increase is complete, so we're back with good comms.
Jim copies.
We just got a shout out from the Hoot
C2V2
House
again,
live
that
stream.
communications channel
you, Hoot
that
House
is a
live
link
stream.
between the Dragon and the International Space
Awesome.
Station. Back to a nominal config. We're now
True story,
past
Horseman. True
the
story.
top of the hour.
Come on, focus this
and
view,
approximately
please.
10 minutes
Please,
away from the
please just
expected arrival of Waypoint
Discovery,
1.
Oh.
go at throttle up.
come back. Super Wojo, 32 months. Thank you. "90 minutes to orbit the Earth at this altitude, pins." Yeah, that's called an orbital period. So you'd say the ISS is in a 90-minute orbital period. So 45 minutes day, 45 minutes light.
The views you're seeing from the International Space Station illuminating the capsule of Dragon Freedom there.
What are they, using a
covered
docking
by
splitter
the
like
setting
you do
sun
with your
and
headphones?
whereas
No,
we
they're just
approach an orbital
different
nighttime.
adapters, man. Or different ports from different modules.
As the station and Dragon Freedom pass over the western border of Quebec,
Theoretically,
Terminator
Tessa, yeah.
line that separates
Yeah, Joe, that's right. Yep, yep.
daytime from nighttime is over the Atlantic Ocean. It'll be just a few minutes until the expected sunset.
Do they use
We'll lose some of
USB-C?
the views that we have currently of
Actually,
Dragon Freedom.
Actually, if you really want to know, there's a bunch of adapters on the space station to adapt every single spacecraft. Seriously. So on node 2 at the front, I'm just going to give you an example. So node 2 on the front has an ACBM, an axial CBM on the front of the port. The axial CBM is connected to the pressurized mating adapter, or PMA. That's the second PMA up there, the one at the very front of the station. So ACBM is connected via the axial common berthing mechanism to the pressurized mating adapter 2. PMA 2 on the front of it has a APAS 95 docking port, the shuttle's docking port, a Russian design, believe it or not. So APAS is Androgynous Peripheral Attachment System. 95 refers to the version, the year it came out. And the shuttle, yeah, not a lot of people know the shuttle flied with a Russian docking port basically its entire career. Not a lot of people know that. So on the front of PMA, you have APAS 95. And then on the front of that, there is the International Docking Adapter, IDA. IDA converts APAS 95 to NASA docking system, APAS 95 to NDS. So, if you want to understand the adapters that are on the front of the space station and how they work, you have the ACBM that's connected to the PMA. The PMA is connected to the APAS 95. APAS 95 is connected via APAS 95 to the IDA, to IDA 2. IDA 2 is NASA docking system, and that's what Dragon's going to dock to. So the ACBM to the PMA to the APAS 95 to the IDA to the NDS. No, I'm not making stuff up. You can go look this up if you want. That I'm not kidding. That's what everything is called. I'm serious. I wouldn't be good at what I do if I didn't remember all that. Where's the knee bone connected to? The arm bone. Nicely done. Thank you. You'll see if you Actually, I won't show the send cam too much, guys, but if you look at the send cam, everything that I'm talking about is right there. That's the ACBM. That's the CBM port. The black part is the PMA. On the front is the APAS. There's the IDA, and there's the NDS. And Dragon's over there on the right. But I'm not going to show that all the time because we don't have permission to restream it. What I will do is, if you want to watch that as well, I'll put the link in. I'll put the link in chat as well. There are 3 pressurized mating adapters. That's right, FX. Yep. Hang on. Just refresh it. There are 3 pressurized mating adapters up at the space station. PMA-1 is connecting the ACBM from the aft node, the ACBM on the aft part of node 1 to the front port on Zarya. Zarya is basically the battery module, one of the battery modules, the power module for the station. Zarya is a Russian functional cargo blocker, FGB for short. It's basically like a boxcar that you can kind of reconfigure to do whatever you want. This one, in this particular case, Zarya is carrying the station's batteries, or an array of batteries, right? Zarya at the front has an APAS design. It's APAS 75. It's not 95, I think. Pretty sure. And PMA-1 connected Unity to Zarya on STS-88, one of the first ISS assembly missions. The SENCAM is new. Yep. Internally, NASA has a website that's used to look up acronyms. I had to look up the POD on Thursday, and the site pulled up over a dozen different meanings. Ah! And now you know why they need a new space station. Yeah, exactly. Every time they come up with a new spacecraft over the ISS's tenure, they're like, just put an adapter on it.
5 minutes.
Just put an adapter on it.
Of waypoint 1.
So PMA-2 is up at the front. I just told you guys about that. And PMA-3 is on the technically port side axial CBM on node 3, kind of a midships on the space station, so to speak. It's there as a spare, if I'm remembering right.
Should coincide almost exactly with the expected time.
It's on the zenith,
sunset, where we
Pandaroo?
lose the illumination of the outside.
It's on node 3 somewhere.
From the sun.
Node 3 on the.
Right when we hear
it can't be on the nadir because the nadir CBM has the cupola module. The aft CBM
start moving inside
on node 3 on Tranquility has beam. The forward node has the permanent multi-purpose module.
Illumination.
So it's either on the side or on the top.
In which case you'll see some of the navigation lights, the green and the red lights.
What a shot. But the old spacecrafts need to dock to the space station too. Well, yeah, exactly, Q. That's why there's 4 SSVPs, 2 CBMs, and 2 NDSs. For certain spacecraft. The APAS ports that the shuttle used are not used anymore. Yeah, feels so alive.
Sunrise is not expected until about 4:46 p.m. Central Time, 2:46 p.m. Eastern.
Why is one of the adapters diagonal? Skeleton, you referred to like why it's bent, so the shuttle could dock to it. Long story short, shuttle had to be docked manually all the way to the end of its career. There was no automatic docking with that. You did it manually. The pilots flew the dang thing. Scott, tier 2 32-month resub. Thank you. Yeah. And long story short, it was there so when you're docking the shuttle, you could see the docking port. It's kind of bent down on purpose. That is a pretty good shot. Yeah, pretty good. Considering... Lost the signal. All right. What am I supposed to do with this? Stop it!
Commander Nick Hague, NASA astronaut and mission specialist.
We're almost lined up with the V-bar alignment. You can see the other approach corridor right there.
Freedom Spacex on the big loop. Approach 1 and soft capturing extension will begin shortly. Dragon will continue approach to waypoint 2.
Okay. I mean, considering we saw guys bolt that hatch down and close it yesterday, that's pretty cool, man.
All teams are go to proceed past waypoint 1.
Guys, remember that? Were you here for the Crew 9 streams? Yeah, when we watched it launch, we watched people go in through that hatch, and we watched the guy torque the bolt down, which is that always is kind of messes with my head a little bit.
20 meters in front of the docking axis. We'll be proceeding in
very
shortly. All teams are go. Everything looking good.
This is Space.
Here from the
I'm in
International Space Station Flight Control Room.
What are you doing? I should be paying you. Why are you gifting me 20 subs?
As
Stop
we continue to follow along, I'll toss it back to my colleagues over in Hawthorne.
This is Space.
And Ron.
I'm in space.
Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. So one of the things that's really interesting as we move up to waypoint 1 is that in a lot of ways, the trajectory we're on today, even though we've done these additional burns with Dragon's Draco thrusters, was set yesterday when we lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40. And that's part of the reason that we had an instantaneous launch window yesterday. A lot of that is driven by this rendezvous point between Dragon and the International Space Station in orbit,
27 minutes
so that we can perform all of these maneuvers moving from waypoint 1 to waypoint 2, coming up here shortly. Exactly on time and through this careful, very methodical approach between all of the teams currently participating. Here at SpaceX Hawthorne, obviously our crew on board Dragon, the International Space Station, and Mission Control in Houston. We are still expecting initial contact between Dragon and the International Space Station at about 2:30 p.m. Pacific time or 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And before reaching waypoint 1, which again is coming up here very shortly, mission operators conducted a go, no-go poll.
Why can't you see any stars? Quag, actual question, or are you screwing with me?
That's, of course, located inside of the keep-out sphere, about 20 meters away from the space station.
Actual question. You can see a star, or at least you could see the light from one of them. Problem is, one of them is a lot closer than all the rest. So with a camera lens, it blots it out pretty bad. So, like, here, think about it like this. All right? Camera light, right? The closer I move it, the more you cannot see me. Right? And on a cosmic scale, there's one star that's a lot closer than all the other ones. That's why you can't see them. With that being said, at night, you can see the stars. Sure. Well, at night. When Earth is eclipsing the sun, you can see the stars. Oh, absolutely. I see it on the SenCam 415. Yeah, I have it. Now, see this shot here? Those aren't stars. Those are dead pixels from the radiation up there. But yeah, dude, at night, you can see them. I've seen footage of astronauts at night. Like, there's footage around of they can see everything. They can see auroras. They can see all the stars in the background. You could see the lights down on the ground. It's just, yeah, you can see the star. You could see one, and it's a lot closer than everything else, and it blots everything out. But at nighttime, oh yeah, you can see them. That's a good question, Quag. But people often ask that as a kind of a meme. So that's why I was like, are you serious? Are you being serious? Because I'll actually tell you if you want. Like, oh, we could see some firing. You could just see the thrusters firing. Look, they're pulsing. That's legit.
Dragon Freedom docking today with Crew 9, and then the Dragon with Crew 8 that arrived and is at the Zenith port of the Harmony module. But there are other visiting spacecraft on the space station right now. Those include the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft, launched just a couple of weeks ago and brought up 3 additional crew members. They'll stay on board for about 6 months. We also have 2 Progress resupply spacecraft. Those are also from Roscosmos, Progress 88 and 89.
Hey, Redbeard.
Those are resupply spacecraft. So they come up with food, fuel.
You'll see the thrusters firing
any
up there.
materials or hardware for the crew living and working aboard.
That's legit.
And then we also have Northrop Grumman's Cygnus 21. So their 21st flight to the International Space Station. That's another resupply spacecraft bringing up cargo and hardware.
So, Rick, you're still all new to this. Do they dock manually? No. Dragon has a module that was installed by the Space Shuttle program, believe it or not. That's how long Dragon's been flying. It's called Dragon Eye. Dragon Eye is a LiDAR interface for Dragon to automatically dock. So Dragon basically sees an infrared to dock to the ISS. However, Nick or Alexei could take control of the vehicle right now and do a manual dock if needed. This has never been done. It only was tested on DM2, where Bob Benkin and Doug Hurley did a test with it to see if they could take manual control of the Dragon, and they did. But it was only there as a test, and they didn't initiate a full manual dock. But yeah, no spacecraft nowadays really docks, at least at first, manually. They really only initiate a manual docking as a redundancy, just in case. It's there just in case you need it. However, at certain points during this rendezvous that you're going to see here coming up, you'll hear chop over the radio, crew hands-off position. Basically, you initiate chop when the automatic pilot has you close enough to where you don't, even if something weird happens, don't touch anything because you're like super close to the ISS. Can you explain why SpaceX uses 12 RCS jets for attitude control while Starliner has 26? Starliner uses 26 because the RCS on there is derived from the space shuttle, so they use 26 for redundancy, but they also use it because that's how many is needed for that design. But because it's derived from the space shuttle, there seems to be more clusters of thrusters, so to speak. Clusters of thrusters. That's my new ska band name, okay? Clusters of thrusters, yeah, yeah. It's basically just down to the design. Dragon's thrusters are more Dragon's thrusters were, the Draco thrusters were engineered by Tom Mueller, same guy that did the Merlin Kestrel engine, Super Dracos, and had some input on Raptor. He designed those kind of purposefully for Dragons, so it's a much more, you don't have as many clusters of thrusters because it's not like we lifted the thrusters from something else. They were purposely designed for Dragon.
To back away from the space station at that time, it would not be executed by the crew. It would need
Thruster
to be executed
cluster
by Dragon itself.
Yeah.
So an autonomous retreat.
Where did the
And
NASA
all
hat
of
guy
Dragon's
go?
flight has been autonomous.
I don't know. That's
from all of its
I could have an
parts and
identical
its
twin,
rendezvous and its
Terrestrial. You
docking
don't know.
itself, it'll be completely flying on
How do you
its
think
own.
I'm able to stream so much?
Now, this view on the right side of your screen from Mission Control Hawthorne, they have been on console for the last 26 hours,
Hey,
actually almost 28 hours now, monitoring.
That was a good question, though, Rudy.
The flight of Dragon up to the International Space Station just a couple of hours ago. We heard that big loop
I'm not sure,
configure,
Danzu.
meaning that Hawthorne, Dragon, the International Space Station, and Mission Control in Houston are all able to talk to each other.
Freedom SpaceX on the big loop, self-capturing extension complete. Reminder, we will be holding for about 5 minutes at waypoint 2. If you'd like, you can keep your visors up until we are getting ready to command into approach 2 out of that hold.
Yep. Yeah, that's right, Tesla. Yep.
And Freedom copies, good sub-duct ring extension. We're going to hold at waypoint 2. We'll keep visors up until then. And just to let you know, we are, station's pretty dark in the center line camera, looking at thermal until we get in closer.
Yeah, okay.
SpaceX copies. Sounds good. And yeah, expected for the lighting conditions and eclipse now. Should brighten up in approach 2 on center line.
Copies.
Dragon does have a strobe, Lunprod. It has a strobe on the docking port, so that you could see it at night.
There from
Well,
Mission Control
at night.
that we obviously have our Crew 9 astronauts suited up and waiting to approach that waypoint 2. We also heard the call out from Mission Control there that the astronauts are welcome to leave their visors up. One of the things that's pretty cool about the IVA suits is that they are fully integrated and tailored to the
It's
astronaut
killing
who is wearing
pixels,
them.
Digil. Good
So
question.
the visor is
It's
one
dead
of the
pixels
only
on the
mobile parts of
DSLR.
suit. Everything
That's
else
what
is
happens.
connected. The helmet, the gloves, the boots,
Basically, it's
everything
frying
is
the
custom
digital
tailored to the astronaut wearing that IVA suit.
processor on the camera.
Including everything going on
It's not
to
the right
their,
name for it, but-
their communications with the ground, the umbilical that actually mates from the thigh of the suit to the chair on board of the Dragon spacecraft.
We did also hear that the soft capture ring is deployed. So
The sensor,
there's
that's
sort
what
of
it is,
two
yes.
phases to docking. There's self capture. That's our initial contact for Dragon.
Sorry,
and the
I couldn't come
International
up with a
Space
name.
Station.
It's Sunday.
And
I'm
then
not even
that
supposed
ring
to
will
be here
retract
today.
Once we make that contact, and we'll start getting hard capture. That's when we get into those locks or those latches and hooks driving to provide a firm, secure connection from Dragon and the
Galactic.
International Space Station. We'll also
Discovery,
see some
go at
umbilical
throttle up.
checks and connections as well. Too.
Did you enjoy what weekend you had to yourself? Yeah, I went to a car show this morning. That's kind of cool. Could have been at a barbecue. Welcome to Earth.
International Space Station are ready for docking themselves. So we're standing by for waypoint 2 coming up next. We may dock a little bit early today. We were targeting around 2:30 Pacific. That could happen about 2:26 p.m. Pacific time. So early
Moving
is
up in
good.
the timeline.
Early is good.
That's great.
See what I mean? Just as predicted. If everything goes smooth, there's leeway built into the timeline. So they're targeting 20. They were targeting 27 past. Now they're moving to 26 past. Just because everything is going good. There's built-in leeway. So you don't say like, okay, it's going to take Dragon 5 seconds to do this part of the mission. You're going to say it's going to take 5 seconds. So in the checklist, we give it a minute. You know what I mean? Just to get some leeway in the timeline in case something goes weird.
These communications back and forth between mission control and the astronauts. You can hear
to say
them
that
on all
streaming
of
is
our
awesome.
crew launches on board Dragon, and obviously keeping us in touch not only with Dragon and mission control here in Hawthorne,
that's good.
but also the International Space Station and mission control Houston.
It also helps us know when that comms is coming here as communicators, because those are the most important comms.
Yeah, Fred, I wouldn't call it really a space rescue because Butch and Sonny are doing a regular duration mission. I would just call this catching a ride on the bus. You know what I'm saying?
We like to listen for those, and we are quick to be quiet as soon as we hear that
Absolutely.
there might be some crew comms incoming.
It also just sounds like space to me. I think it's the history of everything, and having seen it on all of the crew flights from Demo 2 to Crew 9 on board Dragon, that sounds like we have space coming in. I'm so always eager.
What's the coolest car I saw at the show this morning? Quag. There was a 1965 Lamborghini 350 GT V12 with 6 2-barrel carburetors on it. It was, you're not going to see another one of those. Also, the Pinto. The Pinto was dope. The Pinto was my favorite car the whole time. Yeah. At least the Pinto is obtainable. There was I think it was a 96 Ferrari 575M. That was 575Ms are pretty dang rare. There was a Ferrari 812 there, which was really cool. What else was there? All kinds of good stuff, dude. There was a Cybertruck Foundation series there, which, I mean, that was pretty cool. It's big. It's a big truck.
Between Dragon and the space station.
Pinto was the first car you ever owned. Heck, there was I think it was like maybe a 71 or a 72 Pinto, maybe. 72 Pinto, but 2-door wagon with a 2.3 and a 5 and a 4-speed, which is, dude, that's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. Manual station wagon. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It had the brown wood trim on it and everything. It was awesome. It was so bad.
To arrival, we expect to pause, and it looks like we could see a couple of thruster firings as we get ready to execute that 5-minute hold at waypoint 2 before moving in for final approach and docking to the Node 2 forward port with
Thomas,
Dragon and Crew 9.
Those and Falcons.
This is the second Dragon that's going to be mated to the International Space Station. Oh, we've got some good Draco pulses on your screen there right now. Again, this is the second Dragon that's going to be on board the ISS once we've got this docking complete today.
I don't know
because
what
we
it
do
is,
have the
Zyderall.
Crew
I
8
haven't seen a
Dragon
clip.
also currently mated to the International Space Station. Crew 8 and Crew 9 are going to do an active handover here, where the crews work together to transition current operations on board the station, any ongoing scientific research, and then Crew 8 will return home in about a week, depending on weather conditions, in the same capsule that they rode up on. So it's interesting because that capsule stays with the crew for the duration of their mission.
Dude,
which
the Pinto had the
means that we at
porthole.
SpaceX here
No,
are
full
monitoring
glass
Dragon
all around,
throughout the
Fractal,
mission.
no porthole.
From its initial launch, the entire
Dude, it
time
was
it's
nice,
docked on
man. It's a
station
nice
through
car.
that splashdown
Like,
for each crew.
Never thought I'd say that about a Pinto, but
Did just get confirmation that we are holding at waypoint 2.
Okay, they're in the hold
we may
here,
hear a
so I'm
call
gonna
to the
show
crew
you
in
while
just
they're
a
doing
moment,
that.
confirming
Look.
that as well.
Look.
Again, expecting
It's
maybe a
so
5-minute
bad.
hold,
I love
20
it.
meters right now away from the International Space Station. It is truly slow and steady.
It was so
wins the
good,
race.
dude. It was so good.
With that 5-minute hold, we talked about maybe
Dude, look at this pool, man.
2:26
I'm sorry.
p.m. docking, a 2:30 p.m. docking.
It's got the crappiest
It's nebulous a
wood
little
trim
bit at
on
this
it.
point. We
So
just take the
good.
time that we need at this hold, and so we may be back a little bit closer to the 2:30
So,
docking.
dude, it's got,
but we will make
you
sure
know,
to let you know exactly where the International Space Station and Dragon are flying.
You can say whatever you want. It's a front engine, manual, rear-wheel drive station wagon. You can't get that anymore. You haven't been able to get that for a long time. So it's weird that that thing actually became kind of cool.
Part of the reason
Here.
that we're monitoring these things and listening
This
to
right here is that
we have a lot
that
of teams
Lambo
working together
350
to assess the
GT.
situation as it unfolds.
It is a
So the good news
wild,
is that we've had a really smooth
wild
flight
car.
so far for our Crew 9 astronauts who did
Like,
lift
look
off
at that, dude.
yesterday from Space Launch Complex
You're-
40 at Cape Canaveral.
You're not gonna see another one of those. Those are
Florida.
super
They spent
rare.
About 28 hours on their way to the International
What else
Space
we got?
Station. And as Leah mentioned, we are holding here at waypoint 2.
356
just about 20
coupe
meters away from the space station, awaiting that final
for the Porsche
approach and
fans.
docking.
Currently, Mission Control Houston is
What else? What else? What
conducting
else?
their poll to ensure that we are go for final approach and docking when we depart waypoint 2. Again, final hold point for today's mission. So
Here.
this is really game time. We are getting close to seeing the.
Yep, they're in a 5-minute hold, guys. That's why I'm showing you this real quick. E-Type.
As they dock, it'll take about 2 hours for
Beautiful
all the
freaking
operations
car.
required before we see them float through the hatch. That includes vestibule depressurization. That's the space between Dragon and the International Space
Oh,
Station.
I
Right
took 2
now,
shots of
it's
the,
exposed to
took
vacuum,
two
so that
pictures of the
Dragon can
Pinto.
dock. So
Freedom SpaceX on
Hold on.
Big Loop. Ground is go for final approach. Confirm crew readiness for approach and visors are down.
Okay, grounds go. The Jag. Yeah.
And SpaceX Freedom, visors down. We are go for docking.
SpaceX copies. As a reminder, once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted.
Chop.
Good copies.
I know, Fabricator. It's so good.
And Freedom SpaceX, we are resuming approach.
Good copies.
The gremlin, Frank. Dude, there was no gremlins there. Okay. Here, one last
Awesome news there from
one last
Mission
shot
Control,
real quick.
and of course hearing our Crew 9 astronauts on.
A little bit of an artsy picture from me. If you know the cars, you
If
know
you're
the
watching
cars.
closely, you're also seeing some great pulses from those Draco thrusters on board as Dragon approaches the ISS for that final docking maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
again, that was the final hold. And we heard
E-Type and the Corvette,
communications that we
the
are
C1
go for
Corvette.
docking
Yeah,
and
that's
resumed that
pretty
approach.
good.
So we will not
It was
hold
pretty,
in and
pretty.
wait to
There were
set the
some
shot
really
before
nice cars there,
early the
dudes.
crew hands-off
Like
point.
really
That's
nice cars, like way out of my price
International
range. I drive
Space
around junk
Down
compared to
on the
these
Big Loop.
things.
Dragon is on final approach and is go for docking.
Okay.
Monitor per steps 5 and 6 in 1.102. Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Good for final approach. Let's do this.
Station copies, step 5 and 6.
So those sound like similar communications, but the first was to the crew on Dragon. The second is to our crew monitoring in the cupola, and you hear them reference what they should be looking
see the
at, any
thrusters
procedures that
firing
they're
again.
referencing during this dynamic phase.
The
And we're
E-Type was-
continuing to
there were
see Dragon
multiple
get
E-Types,
closer
too.
to the
They were-
International Space Station, now about 17 meters away from the docking port. Again, we do expect to be in an orbital nighttime during docking, but
So,
this is a pretty
right there,
cool view
there's
as
Dragon
you
Eye.
can see a camera coming from Dragon and focusing on the docking port itself. So it looks like we are properly aligned with that node.
Okay, check this out here. You have your relative
Now
positions.
15 meters away.
This is your axial positions, and then that's yaw, pitch, and roll. Those are your relative rotation positions here. Up there at the top is the information that you really want to know. We have range, and then your rate of closure in meters a second. Right now, they're going basically. That's what would that be? Basically less than a centimeter a second. It should be going a little bit faster here. Range is 12 out.
LiDAR, of course, stands for
Now that
light radar, and it is
that
used in
that can't be it.
maneuvers
That
like
can't be
this
right.
in
They're
space to
moving
help
faster
two
than that.
spacecraft meet each other.
Actually, no, it looks to be about right.
And that helps us
About
figure out
12 meters out
daylight.
from the station, or about 40 feet, give or take, like 38 feet in closing.
But because we have this
centimeters a second. Yeah, sorry.
Johnny, if you look in the top left, you can see we're now just about 10 meters away from the International Space Station.
33 feet.
Confirmation from the crew, 10 meters
Copy,
away.
10.
Of course, now we're also within that crew hands-off point, in large part because the autonomous systems on board Dragon, which we're getting kind of a representation of on your screen right now, are completing this final
Once
docking
again,
maneuver.
rotational rates are right here. These should be basically zeroed, and then that is your relative position to the docking port on X and Y on a 2D plane. Basically, these are denoting how far that plus sign is from the plus sign on the docking port. I'm pretty sure if I'm looking at this correct. You also have a backup LiDAR sensor, the secondary sensor over there. If these two are reading pretty much the same, you're good to go. You have one they're in redundancy here. All right.
Again, first, we will be holding for soft capture. When that soft capture ring makes contact with the space station, that will then retract and begin hard capture. But docking for us is called at the time of soft capture.
5 meters.
About 18 feet from the port.
Copy, 5.
Oh, what a shot.
Standing by for the
What a
arrival
shot.
of Crew
Look,
9 to the
you can see the
International
NDS
Space
pedals
Station.
are open right
We
there.
are also getting some pretty good views here of Dragon approaching
that's sick.
station, even though we are in an orbital nighttime and it's pretty dark. That's exciting to see how close these spacecraft are to
You
each
see
other.
the pedals?
Yeah, now just
That's
about
the
4
soft
meters
capture
away.
mechanism on the NDS. And watch, it's spring loaded, so when they dock, it'll
Standing
just
by
kind
for
of
the call
drift
for
for a
chop,
second.
crew hands off point.
Should get chop here in a second.
Slight 2 meters, hands off.
Okay, less than 10 feet.
Less than 2 meters away, standing by for
I
docking.
just said that. And
1 meter.
3 feet. Shoot the J. Shoot it! Ah! Soft capture. There it is.
Freedom SpaceX on the big loop, soft capture confirmed.
Yeah, baby! All right!
Freedom copy. Good soft capture.
Crew 9 has
Crew
arrived to the
agreeing with
International
soft
Space
capture.
Station. Docking confirmed at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time over Botswana.
Now, we still have a few steps to complete before Dragon is securely attached to the station.
They're gonna
so
bring
we're
in
going to
the
go
soft
ahead and
capture
follow those
mechanism?
along as well.
See,
We are standing by for the
capsule
hard capture sequence start, and then
drifted a
we
little
will
bit.
also hear a call out for hard docking complete.
Yep.
We're expecting that a little bit more than 10 minutes from now.
Freedom SpaceX, ring retraction in progress.
Okay, so that ring that I was telling you guys with the 3 pedals, it's on
Freedom copies.
it's on springs,
Retraction in progress.
and the springs can retract. And when it retracts,
Again, they're
the hard
referencing
capture
the soft
mechanism
capture
will
ring
move
that
into
will
position,
slowly
and
retract
they'll
and bring
latch
Dragon
in.
closer to the International Space Station. We'll get into that hard capture sequence with the hooks and latches, providing us a hard docking. And
Is
that happens
Botswana
about
in
10
South
minutes after docking
America.
itself.
No, South
Again,
Africa.
Crew 9 arriving at the
Not
International Space
actual
Station
South
at
Africa.
the station
Botswana is
Dragon.
north
We're
of
flying
South
265
Africa, but the southern
miles
part of Africa
over
is what I'm trying to tell you.
Botswana at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Of course, those hard capture rings aren't the only thing that we're going to attach between Dragon and the space station. We also have a series of
It's north of
umbilicals and other
South
systems
Africa.
that really help
Did you do that on
integrate
purpose?
Dragon to the space station once both vehicles are mated together.
And this continues to be a I don't want to say slow, but a methodical process of bringing the crew on board the space station. So yes, we do consider them docked at this point. We are awaiting for that hard dock to be confirmed, but we will still have a couple of hours before we actually open the hatch and see the crew fly through. So NASA astronaut Jeanette Epps on the space station
Drummer,
side
thank
is
you.
going to be prime. She's the lead
It's
for
east of Namibia.
pressurizing the vestibule, that
Correct.
space between Dragon and the station hatch that will be opened and allow the crew members to fly through it and join their new home for the next 5 months. So we will stand by
Northeast
for
of
that, but that
Zimbabwe.
does take a couple of hours, and then we will finally have 11 people aboard the International Space Station for about the next week.
Trivia question: capital city of South Africa, Johannesburg.
phase of flight before we have all 11 members of our crew together on board Expedition 72. We've obviously heard a couple call outs to our crew that they are wearing their IVA suits now, visors down, due to the dynamic nature of this flight environment. And we'll move through all of these steps until we can bring everybody together. And then, like you mentioned earlier, maybe change into something that's a little bit less, a little less spacefaring, a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, we'll probably see them float through in something like their flight suits, you know, NASA astronauts.
Thoughts on the NASA Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Independent Study? There's a lot of crap floating around in space, Draco. It's not necessarily aliens. There's rocks, there's ice, there's all kinds of junk. There's gloves from past space missions. Not to be a buzzkill, right? Like, not say, you know, I want to believe just like everybody else, but there's a lot of, space is not a clean place. It's dirty, just like everything else, man. And there's sewage up there. Yeah, there's frozen pee. Don't ask.
We are still standing by for soft capture ring retraction to be complete before
there's
the
a car,
hard capture sequence starts, and we get into driving those hooks and latches and firmly securing Dragon to the space station.
What are those numbers coming out of the docking infographic?
If you joined us during
These
our
are
webcast
rates
yesterday, you know that these hooks were actually exposed when we opened the nose cone shortly after Dragon made it to orbit. That's one of our major milestones during our launch.
It's from the Space Shuttle Chrome Viper. Even though the P's probably not up there anymore, but the Space Shuttle had a open loop. Oh, hold on.
Copy is holding for HCS reconfig.
So confirmation that the soft capture.
It has an open loop sewage system. Yeah, so they dump the urine. They dumped the urine before they did the deorbit burn on the shuttle missions, so they would be lighter. It's like when Martin Brundle's talking to Kimi Räikkönen that one time. Did you see Pele? No, I was going to the bathroom. Oh, well, that'll certainly make you lighter on the grid. Yeah, kind of like that. It's a dirty place. There's a lot of stuff up there. That's what that study's probably for, guys.
Really serves the same role as what we have here in Hawthorne with the core. That's the single person in the room that communicates with the crew. That keeps all of the communications streaming.
Most likely MMOD, Draco. I'm sorry. I hate to be a buzzkill, dude.
Proceeding with hook driving.
Okay, so soft capture mechanism on the NDS is fully retracted now, and the driving hooks, there's 12 of them. They're going to drive them in sequence, 6 hooks, and then 6 more. Basically, what they're going to do is latch them together. The hooks are... The reason why I keep using this right here is because the hooks are the same. The hooks latch to themselves. It's not like the hook is grabbing something on Dragon or Dragon's grabbing something on the ISS. The ISS has the same hooks, and Dragon has the same hooks, and they're designed to basically latch together to each other, and that's what's going to do what's called a hard capture. It's basically going to seal up and clamp the ports, the front port of Dragon and the front port on the IDA, to each other.
And we're getting good views of Crew 9 on your screen right now.
It's an androgynous interface, that's correct.
Obviously giving them information about their status as we continue to perform this hard capture sequence.
Yeah, Sunkib, I don't, I was keeping it classy in case anybody's watching with kids, but yeah, that's not exactly what Kimi Räikkönen said, but... Did you see Pele? Nope. Nope. No. You know what he said. If you know, you know.
Display screens,
yeah, there you go. And so they have the opportunity to continue monitoring.
If they need to, are there analog instruments they could use the whole way? So controls, Victor? Yeah. The crew can take manual control of Dragon if it needs to. That's only if the two-fault redundant automatic system doesn't... That's the fuel diagrams right there. That's basically a map of your fuel plumbing. I'm not sure why he has that open. I'm pretty sure Gorbanov probably knows more about this than me, so I'm sure there's a good reason. At least I think that's the fuel plumbing, if I'm looking at that right. Could be something else. He was as classy as Gerhard Berger. Yeah, right. Umbilicals? There's not really umbilicals on the docking system, Shadowman. The NDS has plugs. It's like plugging something into the wall, but the plugs are fixed on the ISS docking port and on Dragon's docking port. And when the hard capture mechanism mates, it plugs itself in, believe it or not. Yeah, it's an umbilical with power on it. Not all docking ports can transfer power, guys. Some of them can. It really depends. Sorry to ask, but the capsule is kind of lean internally in case they need analog. How do they access it? So, Victor, it's the buttons that are underneath the screens. If you'll notice, if they show that onboard view again, right between Nick and Alexander in the center, there's a T-grip. That's the oh frick button. That's the manual abort button, for instance. So like you don't really get to see it, dude. There's arrays of buttons down there, but also on the armrests of the seats, there's also buttons down there. You can take manual control with this thing from the buttons that are on the kind of armrests on the seats. They're hard to see just because the spacesuit is a little bulky, but they're there. If they show it, you'll see it. Have you seen the Archimedes fire yet? I have, HD. Yeah.
Research that we can do for whether it's biological or nutrition. We talked a little bit earlier today about the number of plant experiments that are currently ongoing on board the ISS, all studying how we can deliver different amounts of nutrition to our astronauts on those future long duration exploration missions. And of course, then there are parallels for that on Earth as well.
Been 10 minutes since our docking today, and I see the first set of 6 hooks are now fully driven into the International Space Station, and the second set is now driving. So we are in.
So I know what people are going to ask: why they drive 6 and 6? Well, believe it or not, they drive the hooks in sequence. If anybody here has ever worked on a car or changed a tire on a car, you know that you torque the lug nuts in sequence, right? Start at the top, go to the bottom. You know, if you have a 5-lug rim, you do it in the pattern that you draw a star, right? That's to ensure that the flange of the wheel and the flange of the hub are perfectly parallel to each other, right? If you don't do that, it could wobble around. They do the same thing with the docking ports. They drive hooks in sequence, basically a torque sequence, to make sure that it seals correctly.
Of course, now that Dragon has completed the docking sequence, the spacecraft needs to undergo a handful of checks, including hooking up that umbilical.
Yeah, CPU's the same way, Pins.
Just to see your smiling faces.
Yeah, baby. So, Shadowman, I may have missed the question. How do they get items out of the trunk? So on crew missions,
those crew members united on either side.
On crew missions, there's nothing in the trunk. We saw that from the footage yesterday. But on the resupply missions, they use the space station remote manipulator system. They use the robotic arm and they grab them out of the trunk.
Inside the station too, as NASA's Jeanette Epps gets the hatch on the station side ready to be opened. She's going to start pressurizing that area known as the vestibule between the Dragon and the station hatches.
The only crew Dragon, to my knowledge, that carried anything in the trunk was Polaris Dawn, and that had the Starlink antenna in the trunk. The Starlink optical antenna, and that's just a little piece.
For umbilical.
Station on the big loop. We are standing down from Crew Dragon approach monitoring.
Okay.
Houston copies.
So, ISS
and deconfigured work.
ISS control doesn't need to monitor the approach anymore because it's already docked. They were just saying, "Hey, we're done here, mate."
All right, again, we docked right on
the
time.
The uncrewed versions.
Here at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, as Dragon and the International Space Station were flying over Botswana. And our teams in Mission Control Houston are continuing to monitor the arrival. So with Dragon docked, that's going to do it for us here in Hawthorne, but our coverage for Crew 9 will not stop here.
In a minute, we're going to toss it to Gary in Mission Control Houston to take us through that vestibule depressurization effort and hatch opening, when we'll see NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Roscosmos astronaut Alexander Gorbanov float into the International Space Station. But first, let's quickly recap how they got here. First, of course, we began with Suit Up with both of our astronauts and Crew 9 members putting on their...
Can someone send up someone from the cafeteria there you want a coffee? Actually, an Italian installed an espresso machine. Samantha Cristoforetti, a long time ago, put an espresso machine up there, Tessa. Space Espresso. They have one. So, you know, you want to keep going. You want to keep it going. There's a coffee machine.
2, we'll take cameras external.
Okay, okay. They're taking the cameras external there so they can take their suits off because, you know, that's not something anyone needs to see.
Reading copies, a little bit broken there, but you're putting in hardline comm. You gave us a go for suit doffing.
Affirm, Nick. Docking sequence is complete. We are enabling hardline power and comm connections. And Concur, yeah, you can go ahead and doff your suits in 4.012. I will take cameras external.
Okay, copy that. We're starting to doff our suits, and you'll go external. Thanks.
Why don't they take up stuff in the trunk on crewed missions? Fahrenheit, I just think it's just the complexity of the mission, right? NASA likes to keep things pretty standard. I don't think that they couldn't do that. I'm pretty sure they could if they wanted to, but if I had to guess, it's probably a mass concern balancing your life support systems and, you know, 4 people on board with carrying cargo and the performance of Falcon 9, if I had to guess. But basically, I would say NASA contractual obligations and then just complexity of mission, and they just don't need to. They got a resupply vehicle to do the same thing, you know? I think. That's a guess, though. It's a guess. I'm not sure if that's right.
Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern today, Sunday, September 29th.
And now that Crew 9 has arrived, we're turning our focus. And
the reason for there not being cargo is the abort rule. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is, Thomas. Yeah, aborting with cargo in the trunk could be a little bit dangerous. Yeah, it's probably that's a good enough reason.
Weather and at our splashdown location. So those will be announced on NASA.gov. Be sure to tune in as NASA and SpaceX bring you live coverage every step of their journey. You can also follow SpaceX and NASA on social media for real-time updates. Thanks again for watching. Go NASA, go SpaceX, and go Crew 9 and Crew 8. And for those of you watching on X, please head over to NASA Plus to follow the coverage live.
Oh, NASA
Really appreciate
Plus.
you being with us here in Hawthorne today, Leah. It's always good to have NASA on site.
Oh,
and of
boy.
course, thank you.
Will, when was the last time that espresso machine was descaled? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to know. What if the trunk had a spare heat shield? Sorry, you haven't done your Sunday drinking yet. It's not. Yeah, I know what you mean. Will you be streaming for the landing? Crew 8? Absolutely, man. Yeah, NASA Plus is... It exists. It exists. Patos, no, I think they're good. It's kind of nice that this has become normal to the team. There are always no crowds outside Mission Control. Always fascinating. Yeah, I'd be there. I'd be there all the time. I'd be like, yo, hey, can I watch more of this? You know, NASA Plus has almost a minute delay.
This is Mission Control Houston. Thanks to our colleagues over at SpaceX.
Check on the camera.
Hold on.
Dragon, Houston has you loud and clear. How me?
No, GG.
I got a loud and clear, sir.
Hold on.
With that, I'm going to detach and Alex and I'll be both away from the displays, doffing suits, and working on getting ready to open that hatch.
All right, SpaceX copies that, Nick. For awareness, we're going to continue with our docking procedures, and upcoming will be vestibule pressurization. recommend you also, following suit doffing, you step into 4.400 for docked cabin configuration. I'll keep you up to date when we do start vestibule press, but you can monitor vestibule pressurization and leak checks in section 4 of 4.400. How copy?
Everything looked good, Pogo, yeah.
Copy all. You guys are going to start with vestibule pressurization for shortly. We're good to also step into the arrival config procedure, and we'll just run this in parallel with suit doffing.
All right, that's a good read back, Nick. And just let us know when you're done with suit doffing and if we are allowed to come back on board with cameras at any point in this docking sequence.
Yep, will do. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston, continuing our commentary.
They're taking their suits off.
The docking of Crew 9 Dragon Freedom to the International Space Station. Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov, Hague of NASA, Gorbanov of Roscosmos, both docked to the International Space Station right on time, 4:30 p.m. Central Time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. At the time, this station was flying 265 statute miles over Botswana. The crew on board Freedom now is going through the remaining procedures to get ready for hatch opening. Through the entire docking sequence, since docking is considered a dynamic event, as an extra set of precautions, the crew wears their launch and entry suits through the dynamic phase of flight of docking.
I'm going to
The suits are
try NASA Plus, because that's off X, and we'll see what happens here. So, NASA Plus.
the entire sequence.
So bad.
Pressurization and Ingress
Crew on
Part
board
1.
Freedom now is going through the remaining procedures to get ready for hatch opening.
Yeah, it's not better.
Docking sequence, since docking is considered a dynamic event, as an extra set of precautions. The crew wears
All right,
their
let's try to
launch
balance
entry
the audio,
suits
guys.
through the suits are protective measure just in case of any pressure loss in the cabin throughout the entire sequence.
Station Houston on the big loop for pressurization and Ingress Part 1.
Going on 2.
Jeanette, you and Mike are go in step 1.1 of
I don't know, Tape.
2.102. Before you begin, we would ask that you please power on the Node 2 Camera 1.
Copy and work.
That woman's playing Factorio. She thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Stop yawning. You're making me yawn, Rix. You stop yawning. Damn. Oh, you suck. You suck. You really suck. Okay. These punks are making me yawn again.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're covering the hatch opening operations after a successful docking at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Crew 9 arrived aboard the International Space Station. Now it's just a matter of getting the hatches open to welcome the crew aboard the orbiting complex.
They're pressurizing the docking
happening on both ends of the hatches.
Hatch opening will be soon.
On the Dragon Freedom side, NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov are going through a series of sequences and steps to doff or take off their suits they used and wore as a protective measure through this dynamic phase of flight of docking. After taking off their suits, they'll also undergo a number of steps led by the core over in the Hawthorne Mission Control and SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California.
No, I'm trying not to
The
yawn.
crew there will be relaying steps up
Damn
to
it.
the crew. We may hear those steps on the big loop. And those steps are closing out the cabin inside Dragon Freedom to prepare for the hatch opening sequence.
Making me yawn all the time.
This includes laying out the suits such that they can be dried, configuring the cabin displays and some of the equipment inside the cabin, as well as changing out some of the LiO canisters. These canisters allow for the scrubbing of carbon dioxide inside the cabin of Dragon Freedom. These are typical closeout procedures through every Dragon docking that we have undergone so far, just to make sure that Dragon...
Station on the big loop. We see the DBDT 0.01, minus 0.01. The cabin press hasn't changed. Want to be sure that's close enough to 0 to be 0.
We concur. That is close enough to 0 to be 0.
Damn float point errors.
I will quote you on that. Thank you.
It's not that, but it might be.
Capcom test
I would really hope nothing is coded in float here. That would be awful.
Talking
Probably
with
not a good idea.
astronaut Matt Dominic aboard the International Space Station. It takes a team to open up the hatches, and we do have quite a crew on board. Jeanette Epps, NASA astronaut, as well as NASA astronaut Mike Barrett, working with Dominic, will all be working on the hatch opening procedures. Butch Wilmore, ahead of our coverage today, did set up the rendezvous
Dragon runs Unity.
operations panel that allowed for telemetry to be received by the crew on board the International Space Station and monitor Dragon's approach to the station. Now moving past the monitoring operations after the docking sequence is complete, the crew is focused on hatch opening operations.
Sorry, your signal's breaking up.
Now these hatch opening operations can take some time. The docking port on the forward end of the International Space Station with the International Docking Adapter before Crew 9's arrival has been exposed to vacuum, including the sun and the sun shining directly on the docking interface, as well as shade and orbital nighttime. These can introduce some significant temperature swings inside the docking ring or inside the International Docking Adapter. So upon docking, whenever the...
Station on the big loop, node 2 forward hatch is open.
All right, give us that onboard view.
We copy, Mike, and when you get there, you are go in step 2.2.
Up to go in 2.2.
Preparing to fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir.
Docking on the forward end of the station, there are multiple hatches on the International Space Station side that are closed as a protective measure. First is, of course, the A-Pass hatch. This is the hatch that's on the furthest position away from the International Space Station, and right now is in the closest proximity to the Dragon's hatch at the vestibule or the interface of the International Docking Adapter, where Dragon is currently docked.
Dragon doesn't run on
a little
Windows,
bit inside the
Dragon runs
pressurized
Linux.
Adapter towards the
modules
of the International Space Station themselves is another hatch. This is on the node 2.
Oh, hold up, shut up. Look at the send camera.
Closed.
Holy shnikes.
Docking sequence.
Oh.
Now, as part of the hatch opening operations, the first hatch of 2 is set to be opened. This will allow the NASA astronauts inside the International Space Station
or that
to have access to the pressurized mating adapter. This is the tunnelway that allows the connection between the Node 2, which is one of the modules of the International Space Station, and the A-Pass hatch, which is currently on the docking interface, where Dragon is currently docked right here.
Oh, God.
Where Dragon is docked, you can see a white interface. This is the International Docking Adapter. It's attached to the black structure. This is the pressurized mating adapter. With the Node 2 forward hatch opened, the International Space Station crew is right now inside the pressurized mating adapter, setting up to configure for entrance through that pressurized mating adapter and welcoming the Crew 9 crew.
We have 4K cams at home. 4K cams
There's a couple
at
of
home.
sequences that the International Space Station crew are undergoing right now. In fact, as part of the hatch opening sequences, we may start to get internal views from inside the International Space Station that we'll be able to show you. Crew will work in tandem to start outfitting the hatch
Wide
itself,
Dragon
as
before
well as they'll
GTA
run
6.
some tubes inside the pressurized mating adapter. They'll be orange, and what those
What
do is
impression
they
was
allow
that?
for the
That wasn't. That was
circulation
just
of
me.
air. With the hatch closed, sometimes there can be pockets of carbon dioxide that you just want to filter out as part of the hatch opening sequences.
Wait,
Again, as a
pay
safety
attention.
measure.
I was
This
distracted
is
by
one of
that
those
enormous
quirks when
flying
working in
willy.
microgravity.
What's that? Looks like a giant Johnson. Well, I got the joke, boys. You ain't throwing an Austin Powers reference by me. That's not happening. Oh, there's the onboard
Now
shot.
getting views from inside the International Space Station. You can
Most excellent. So that's Jeanette Epps right there. So guys, if you were here for my acronym salad that I told you a little about, Jeanette is inside of the pressurized mating adapter. She's now coming towards us. Oh God. Oh God, I'm getting sick. See the square, the square hole? Where does the circle go? That's right, it goes in the square hole. Did she just touch the lens? You touched the lens! Don't touch the lens! Is that a guitar? Anyway. Oh God. Matt, what are you doing? Stop it! Stop touching the thing! Anyway. This right here, that's the actual CBM. This is the inside of the pressurized mating adapter. The PMA has basically used this storage. That's why you can tell because of the way it is. And then this thing right here, that's the APAS port right there. So this is inside of the PMA2, is the pressurized mating adapter. This camera is inside node 2. That's called the Harmony module. Over there on the left, where Jeanette is going, over there, that's the Kibo module, the Japanese experiment module. That way. If we could go that way, the Columbus module is over there. So that's the Japanese module over there. This way is the European module. Dragon is out that door right there. And then Crew 8's Dragon is actually up. It's that way. Nothing is docked to the Nader port here. There's nothing docked down there right now. That's also a guitar, yes. Also, Thomas, don't hit your head on that.
Today helped out with setting up the rendezvous.
Look at the sockets.
Tools needed.
Oh yeah, yeah, it must be sweet.
Today to monitor.
Yeah, everything's strapped down because if it wasn't, it would just float everywhere. How many docks is there on the station? Depends on the spacecraft, Roger. There's 4 SSVPs. SSVPs can receive Soyuz and Progress capsules. There are 2 kind of open CBMs. CBMs can receive Cygnus but those are used for berthing. So like those are spacecraft that need to be grabbed with the arm and then attached to the space station. That's what somebody floated up there. Oh no, you're coming back down. The CBMs will receive uncrewed Dream Chaser. And they can receive Cygnus. I do believe there might be a Cygnus down there. I'd have to look. And then there's 2 NDSs, NASA docking system. NASA docking systems are what Starliner and Dragon use. They use the same docking port. Believe it or not, this is the hatch that Butch and Sonny came into when Starliner docked to, which now has the Crew 9 Dragon docked to it with Nick and Alexi. Nick and Alexi are about, I don't know, like 15 feet that way, maybe. There's 2 NDSs. So right now you have docked to the space station. You have 2 Dragons. You have the Crew 8 Dragon up there on the R-bar NDS, and then you have the Crew 9 Dragon on the V-bar NDS. Notice how the 10 mil socket is missing. Is it? Oh, geez. Okay, I'm tying in the audio. Oh, good. How you doing? Just make sure there's just dead air on the NASA stream. Yeah, okay.
Teams
Yep, there it is.
aboard
Okay,
the
cool.
International Space Station working with the flight control teams.
That's
both
correct, Deadbringer. Yep, yep.
in Hawthorne as well as here in Mission Control Houston.
Dude, if you lose a 10 mil up there, you're
Through a
never
docking
getting it back.
sequence, the attitude control of the International Space Station itself is changed at various increments and spots through the docking sequence. As a visiting vehicle approaches the International Space Station, some of the thrusters and what are called desats, which allow the dampening of a control moment gyro to reset it once it reaches maximum rotation velocity, are disabled. And
Discovery,
prior
go at
to a
throttle up.
hard dock, the station is on control moment gyros only. The attitude determination
Mumblin,
control
tier
officer
334
here at
months.
Mission
Thank you
Control
very
Houston
much.
is reconfiguring the station's attitude control such that
That's Michael Barrett over there and Jeanette Epps.
some of the
Part of the Crew 8
attitude control assets are being re-enabled, including some of the desats and thrusters.
I don't think she knows, no. Cygnus NG-21 is mounted to the Nadir Unity to give it the ability to perform orbit raise burns for the ISS. Yeah, that's why I didn't. They usually put Cygnus down here, but they didn't. They put it on the node that's that way. Yeah, Thomas, I wasn't sure, so I wasn't going to say one way or the other. That's why I said I need to check. Trent Spoon, you asked a question. So let's say the Dragon capsule loses power right before docking. How long do they have to get to the airlock? They would probably find another way to get the thing to dock. But see, the thing you got to understand is that, look, man, if there were electrical problems with Dragon, like that would basically force a total loss of power on the vehicle, which is very unlikely, right? But if that did happen, right, NASA wouldn't even have had it come close to the ISS if there was any doubt that that would happen. Basically, you wouldn't put yourself in a scenario where you could lose power during a docking operation. You would not do that. So I don't know how much they would have. Probably not a lot of time. You'd probably have to figure something out. I mean, you could get to the airlock. They could do it. It's possible. But honestly, spaceflight, you don't go kind of shooting from the hip like that with spaceflight. If there was any inkling that there would be a loss of power of the spacecraft, they would not have it come near the ISS. Like, it's super unlikely that that would happen. Yeah, you gotta think about. They wouldn't even put themselves in that scenario. But yeah, I mean, hypothetically, you'd probably have to figure out something quicker.
Station flying together over the Earth. We're now over an orbital daytime.
I guess, Tessa. I don't know how you could
Station
tell.
and Dragon are approximately 260 statute miles northeast.
No, there wasn't. It's a
off the
hypothetical
coast of
question, John.
Australia,
No,
just over the Coral Sea.
That's why I don't like answering these questions, because someone hears the tail end of it and goes, "What? EJ said they lost power." No. It was a conditional hypothetical.
We're a little more than 30 minutes after the docking.
Could you drink
of Dragon
beer in
Freedom to the
space?
International Space Station.
Sure.
That docking again occurred at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, 2:30 p.m. East, 2:30 p.m. Pacific.
So the Starliner came back empty. How do they
5:30
balance the
p.m.
emergency
Eastern.
capsules on the ISS? Shouldn't a new one
Again,
Shouldn't a
all the
new one
teams are
without
working
anyone
on
be
hatch
sent to
opening
maintain it?
operations. Commander Nick.
So your ride up is your lifeboat in this scenario, and unfortunately, with the Starliner capsule coming back undocked, there was a scenario where NASA had less lifeboats than people on board. But now that that's there, that's not a problem no more. But there was a scenario where, yeah, it was like you're increasing risk, right? That was why it took so long to kind of determine whether Starliner was going to come back with people or without people. Because if Butch and Sonny had come down on it, you wouldn't have a scenario where if something catastrophically bad, God forbid, happened on the space station, right? You don't have enough seats to get home. NASA's solution to that problem was have Butch and Sonny get on the Crew 8 Dragon and basically make a seat out of spare parts. Yeah, they went through some contingency procedures, basically making seats that bolt in certain spots to be able to come down, which is not ideal. You really don't want to do that. It's a little bit of a rough ride. It'd be like trying to drive around in a race car with no seatbelt. Not the best thing, but that's what you had to do. But fortunately, they don't have to use that contingency procedure because their ride home is there, you know? Good question. Thanks. No more hypotheticals. Transmission, like, it's not that I don't like answering those hypotheticals, dude. It's just, as someone that commentates on this stuff, I don't really... It's bad juju talking about potential failure modes if they haven't happened, you know? Like, I don't want, like, something like that to actually happen, and then, like, dude... Sorry, as a New England sports fan, you don't want that to happen. Like, you don't talk about it. It's like commentators curse, man. You know, just don't. There's bad juju. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, nope. It's just a hypothetical. You know, like, I don't like talking about that stuff. But yeah, the real way to look at that hypothetical, like, if you really want me to just outright answer it, you'd have to figure out a solution sooner rather than later. But the right way to look at it would be, you wouldn't even put yourself in that scenario. Why does it keep doing that? Stop it! You wouldn't even want to put yourself into that scenario. That'd be a bad idea. Like, if there was any inkling that the spacecraft had power problems, they probably wouldn't have even launched it. Let me put it to you like that. Hey, the bunch of idiots reversed the curse. Yeah, that was like 20 years ago. That was like 20 years ago. We suck again, remember? Why the bell? The bell is there because a new ship is docked. You ring the bell when a new craft comes in. You don't, it's bad juju, man. You don't talk about it, Transponsor. That's why I'm like, it probably wouldn't happen, but I don't want to talk about that. That hurt me. No, it's just a number. It ain't the number, it's the mileage, Will. Okay?
We're getting live views from the International Space Station as it flies 257 statute miles over the Pacific Ocean. These views are cameras being set up and configured inside Node 2 by the NASA astronauts themselves to provide views from the station.
That's correct, Crafty.
To us down here on the ground to monitor the operations. Of course, aside from opening up the hatches, will be a welcoming ceremony. We'll see the smiling faces of Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov enter into the International Space Station and be welcomed.
Freedom for a status.
Ready to copy.
Why is the docking port angled?
The 1 hour timer for the suit drying 8 minutes ago, and I am ready in section 3 with an inventory when you're ready to copy.
Okay, 1 hour timer 8 minutes ago, so we'll be looking for that in about 50 minutes to complete suit drying, and I'm ready to copy inventory.
Okay, for water, in bag 201, consumed 2 bottles. In 202, consumed all 5 bottles. In 204, consumed 5 bottles. All 5 bottles.
All right, we copy that. 2
of course
bottles
he does.
From 201, all 5 from 202, all 5 from 204.
That's a good readback, and that includes the flush bottle we're going to use here shortly. For
Drinking water is good.
We consumed everything in 303, 304, and 1 meal from 308.
All right, SpaceX copies. The water includes flush bottle, and then all food 303, all food 304, 1 meal 308.
That's a good readback. We're going to do the flush on the commode, and then I'll call down and let you guys come aboard.
SpaceX copies.
That is them telling them which water they've used, just so they can mark it. Now, a lot of people are asking, why is that docking port angled? Well, I could tell you a bunch of different reasons, or I could just show you this picture. Does that make more sense? It's angled. It was angled for the space shuttle. These mating adapters were bent so you could see the docking port. Remember, shuttle had to dock manually. There was no automatic docking system with this thing. You docked manually, and you docked from the aft part of the flight deck here. Now, think about this. Your windows, these windows right here, the docking port has to be inside of the payload bay, right? If you want to reuse it, anything that's on the outside of the payload bay does, in fact, not get reused, except for the tiles and the outside of the orbiter, right? Like, you don't... So docking port has to be inside. You're standing basically right here with your head looking out these windows. How do you see the docking port if it has to be down in here? Well, they did that because the shuttle payload bay has another set of windows right there. There's 2 windows on the flight deck that look into the payload bay, and that makes it so when you go to dock, you can see the docking port. That's why it's bent. It's bent to dock with the space shuttle. Well, when it flew. I really wish it still flew, but... Who's up in the window? I don't know. I can't tell. But yeah, if you want some scale here for how big the orbiter actually is, there's a person just peeping through the window. See what I'm talking about? Shuttle's big. Shuttle's huge compared to Dragon. In fact, the shuttle could probably bring Dragon up inside of its payload bay. Like, dude, look at the difference. Like, that's the same docking port. It's big. Shuttle is gigantic. You don't realize how big it is until you go and see one. It is not small. There's a Chrome update, good sir. I don't. Oh yeah, new Chrome is available. Look at that. So, what port will Starship use? I don't think there's any plans for Starship to dock, but if there was, it'd probably be that.
Station and Dragon Houston on the big loop. For awareness, we are configuring Dragon for hardline audio.
But anyway, does that answer your question? It's bent because of the space shuttle, because you have to be able to see the docking port when you go to dock, because the shuttle could only dock manually.
There is an umbilical that connects
Seriously, you have to sit there and
Space Station.
control the joysticks Kerbal style to get that big 60-ton orbiter attached to this thing. And you have to be this close. You ain't this. You got to be that close.
On the solar arrays and
like,
batteries
it has
aboard.
to be really precise.
The umbilical also provides a data connection. The audio on board
awesome.
Dragon and aboard the
did it a
International
bunch
Space
of times,
Station
35
has
times.
been configured separately
Pretty
through
good.
a big loop configuration and a wireless configuration that is the common communication for visiting vehicles that was used between the 2 spacecraft. Teams are now
love the
working
space
to
shuttle, guys. It's my
use
favorite.
the hardline data path that's enabled by the umbilical connecting Dragon to the International Space Station.
That's right, Will. Yeah, Kristen McAuliffe, she's from New Hampshire. She taught at Framingham State.
Com checks on the hardline may be coming after that hardline is established.
But, yeah. Oh, well. You got to learn from
In
your
the
mistakes and
meantime,
move
we
on.
continue to wait. Hatch
And it
opening
was an idiotic
operations
mistake.
are a game of patience. The vestibule again has been exposed to vacuum and the extreme thermal conditions of space.
He's
While the
talking
sun
about
shines
this
on
thing.
it and is in a vacuum condition.
See this thing right here?
The pressurization cannot proceed forward until some of those thermal conditions, which can introduce fluctuations into a reading of a pressure as it is brought up to the pressure of the International Space Station, they can fluctuate and provide a false reading of a leak.
Why aren't satellites visible in this view? Manu, they're... First of all, you're being backlit by the sun. It would be really difficult to see them. 2, space is freaking huge. They're too far away. You wouldn't be able... Like, even if it had, like, a big strobe light on it, it would still be hard to see. Space is huge. The scale here is something that's hard to grasp from the cameras. But yeah, that's why. If something was big enough, like if there was another ISS flying around in a different orbit, you'd be able to see it. It'd be really interesting to see a Starship hooked up to the ISS. I would really, 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 really like that to happen, Tessa. I want SpaceX to grab like the Destiny module or this one or Harmony or Kibo or Columbus or something and bring it back down. Just how awesome would it be to have data on a module that's been up there for that long? It's a great idea. At this point, Dragon has spent more time docked to the ISS than the shuttle. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, bring the arm back down. Sure, absolutely, something. So, Jeanette Epps is assisting with docking operations here. What she's going to do in a second is go down there, and so that's not actually the hatch. That's a cover. The reason why is because the hatch is precision machined. It's kind of sharp. So she'll go once the vestibule is pressurized, and she'll open this thing up. That's Michael Barrett's head right there. And she'll open up the hatch and then she'll take the covers off and latch it in the upright position. The hatch will actually open up this way. And she'll latch it to a latching mechanism up there. Then she'll take the covers off. But there's a little bit of an open compartment between Dragon and the ISS. That's what that international docking adapter is. It's this, actually, thank you. It's this white ring right here. That's what Gary was just talking about, the NASA PAO. So Dragon's hatch is like, the door is for Dragon is like back here. And then the door that we were looking at in that view a second ago, the one that I was talking about with the covers on it, is right here. That hatch is right here. The other one's right there. There's open space in here that they call the vestibule. It's because the international docking adapter, this white ring in this section right here, is a donut. It's hollow in the center. So obviously people can pass through it, right? So that area is exposed to vacuum. So what they got to do when the spacecraft docks is they have to pressurize that thing. And now it's not just Paralight 75-month resub. Thank you. Now it's not just pressurizing the vestibule. This is not as simple as it sounds. You have to make sure that Dragon, we're looking at pressure differentials here because you don't want to shock load the system. So like if this was unpressurized and they just opened the hatches and just called it a day, you'd get a rush of air, and that rush of air could actually break something. It's compressed air, like shooting through your life support systems. You could break something. Your HVAC systems might not be designed to change to deal with such a pressure shock like that because you're not supposed to do that. So now what they got to do is they got to take whatever pressure the ISS is at, pressurize the vestibule. They have to make sure this and that match. And then they have to make sure all of that matches with Dragon. That's why this takes a second. And you don't want to do it quick either. You don't want to just shock pressurize the vestibule because then you could potentially blow the seals on the hatch or on the hatches here. You could blow that seal. You got to go slow. That's the point that I'm trying to tell you. You have to be slow. No, clever girl. The stations haven't taken pictures of each other. They're too far away. Even if they go near each other, they're still too far away. At least one Dragon has been docked to the ISS nonstop since the third week of November 2020. Crazy. It's like after a workout, don't chug water. Yeah, you don't want to shock the system. Shock refers to basically something happening fast, right? You could have shock pressurization. You could have shock compression loading, shock loading. Like there's all kinds of... Shock is just a way to describe a force or something that happens quickly. Would what you're talking about be the equivalent of a fluid hammer in space? It's pneumatics excessive. So not a fluid hammer in the context of like if you're looking at dynamics like fluids, like air is a fluid environment, but not like water. It's still air. It's still compressible, right? Obviously, because you think that's air you're breathing now. No, but yeah, more or less. You don't take the chances, really. It'll probably be fine, right? You could probably do it, probably get away with it.
Freedom,
but
Houston.
Why would you?
Voice check on hardline comm.
Oh, here we go.
Houston, Freedom, this got you loud and clear.
Copy loud and clear.
Oh, Tessa, what are you talking about? Do you know any good websites that document the shuttle building process? The Haynes manual is a good start. What Tesla link, dog?
Caswell has tested the hardline configuration enabled through that umbilical that connects Dragon Freedom to the International Space Station to the crew inside Freedom. Still on the big loop, although it's reconfigured for hardline communications, that's been successfully established.
This goes through design, construction, why it was made.
For the leak check, heads up, we're expecting about another 5 minutes.
Here, I'm just trying to find the
Okay, copy another 5.
construction pictures. Give me 1 second. This say why it was made the way that it was, comparisons to other launch vehicles, like.
As a reminder, as the vestibule is pressurized in between the station hatch
good enough, dog?
and the Dragon hatch, to ensure that
Challenger right there.
leak check is solid.
Enterprise over
it's
there.
It's just a matter of waiting.
Enterprise over here.
The vestibule's exposure to vacuum prior to Dragon's arrival introduces thermal fluctuations.
The Haynes manual, baby.
Reading of a leak.
Any pictures of inspiration in that? I don't think so, actually.
When the vestibule is being pressurized, simply waiting can allow some of those thermal fluctuations to dampen out and get a very good reading of whether or not there is a leak on board. This is standard procedure with every
how the whole
docking
orbiter was constructed and stuff. It's super
to
cool.
the International Space Station, of course, to this forward port. Just
you get to
follow
read
procedures,
re-entry. Have not read it yet, no.
Another few minutes to make sure that it's a good reading and there are no leaks before continuing to press for introducing
Enterprise, but it says
more pressure into that vacuum.
You're not wrong.
That vacuum space, that
Why is
vestibule.
Whoa, hey, bye-bye.
Again, the target pressure that we're going for here is to match that of the International Space Station.
In a second, Newmark.
Dragon cabins, 14.7 psi, pounds per square inch.
That's about 1 bar or 101 kilopascals for a Matt. Where are you going, Matt? He's gone. Yep. That was Matt Dominic going up and down. See, he's doing some shenanigans. Look at Jeanette. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, nothing. He's doing that on purpose. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Haynes, where I'm from, are your traditional books for repairing a vehicle. Please hold, Garlic Cat. Give me 1 second. Oh, believe me, I have those too.
Station Houston
Oh, we
on
got
2
those.
for the leak check.
Oh, hold on.
We have a good leak check. You are go to step into step 3.1 of 2.102.
Okay.
Copy 3.1 of 2.102. Inward.
Somebody fart? What, somebody step on a duck? My bad, my vans. My bad. All right. See, I have this one, Garlic Cat. I have this one because here, ready? Oh. Hello. Live view of my shop. Man. Yes, I'm flexing. Leave me alone. I worked hard for this, okay? What are those orange bags? Holding something? I heard that it was me. That wasn't me. I take credit for my work, Joe. I'm not going to lie to you. Is that a muffler? The heck is it? What the heck did he have in his hand? Matt, what was that? Can't hear us. Matt?
This is Mission Control Houston. Teams on the ground confirmed that they are happy with the leak check. The vestibule seems to look good. No
It's
leaks
pretty much good to go,
in between the
Roger.
two hatches.
We're going to do
So the
more work on
procedures
it next
that were
weekend.
referenced by
I'll stream it.
Capcom here in Mission Control Houston. That's Tess Caswell, the voice that you're hearing on the ground, are the steps needed to proceed with pressurizing the vestibule and turning the necessary valves and preparing the hatch for opening.
Do they have air conditioning? Absolutely, Newmark. You have to, because of the life support systems, right? They got to keep the air moving. So if you're gonna provide everybody with air, you might as well have thermal control systems in.
On two, if you're happy with our DPDT, which we're showing 0.02, we'll proceed on your go.
Okay.
Station Houston, we concur. You are go in
Absolutely,
3.2.
Klein. Why wouldn't they? Bless you. Thank you.
Going through that 2, it works.
She's got the hatch driver there. She's going to open it.
NASA astronaut Matt and Dominic providing a read of what they're seeing inside the station of the pressure inside the vestibule. Supposed to be pretty close to zero. International Space Station flight controller is pretty happy with the readout,
Jeez,
so they're
bro.
saying go to proceed. Again, this will be an incremental process to pressurize the vestibule in between Dragon and station.
And SpaceX Freedom in 4.400, we're complete.
No,
through
Tess, I don't.
Section 5, standing by Section 6. And you can come aboard.
Where are the valves that pressurize the
Hi,
vestibule?
SpaceX copies that Freedom. Complete through Section 5, standing by in Section 6, 4.400. Brings cameras on board.
They're probably radially inside of the IDA somewhere, Cajun, but I don't know for sure.
As the crew on board the International Space Station works through the steps to pressurize the vestibule in between the two hatches, the crew inside Dragon Freedom working on their closeout procedures and relaying to the flight control teams.
And station on 2 for 3.3. GMT is 22:29.
Copy 22:29.
Why the bell? You ring the bell as tradition when a ship arrives, when a ship comes into port. I saw that sneaky yawn. Damn it! Why'd you gotta out me like that? I'm hydrating to make sure
Right
it
now
doesn't
we're in a
happen.
Expected handover period in between our coverage on the tracking and data relay satellites that provide video and audio communication from the station. We're expected to regain space-to-ground audio communication shortly, video from station shortly after that. It's the teams here in Mission Control Houston that are walking the astronauts aboard the International Space Station through the steps of opening up the hatch and, of course,
Rome, don't
pressurizing
make-
the vestibule.
Stop talking about it, please.
The team here is led by Argo Flight, that is Marcos Flores, the flight director for this shift of Crew 9's docking and welcome into the International Space Station. You can see there at the bottom of your screen, flight director leading the teams here in Mission Control Houston.
Also donuts.
Tess Caswell. To his right is the voice from Mission Control. That position is called Capcom and relays the steps and communicates with the crew aboard the International Space Station and will be the sole voice from here in Mission Control Houston, communicating with the crew aboard. Now back with video from the International Space Station, continuing our coverage of the hatch opening sequence.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess, Cajun, that the valves are on there, but they're the control panel for it, the Zenith IDA control panel. Actually, that's that way. The Zenith IDA is up there. So I'm not sure where the forward control is. It's somewhere around here. Sure I can find it if you show me a picture, you know, like taking tomorrow off? No, I'll be here. We got workers to do tomorrow, man. Speaking of cheaters, any word on the Starlink Polaris test yet? I want that bandwidth everywhere. They live streamed, Bob, from the capsule. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's fine. They live streamed from the Polaris capsule. Yeah, I think it works. Professor Ninjineer, 13 months. Thank you. It says the hatch doesn't open for another 41 minutes. You got to be slow and deliberate about this, dude. What's at the bottom right? A toolbox? Yeah. Yeah, toolbox. My favorite thing to do when we do get these shots inside the ISS is to just find things that are like kind of everyday things that you like those wrenches look. That looks like a socket set to me. That like those are ratchets right there. Those are screwdrivers. Like it's not like they don't have screws up there, right? How about the guitar case? Who spotted the guitar case that's right there? Just chilling, you know? Who spotted the portable breathing apparatus over there? I don't know what that is, and that's not an everyday thing, whatever it is. But I just wanted to say portable breathing apparatus. That ratchet is 100K minimum. They look like regular ratchets to me. This is Star Wars. They don't have screws in space, huh? Oh, yeah. That's not it. Bring me the hydro spanners. Perennial boosters. Tubular vampers. I don't know how we're going to get out of this one. Yeah, that's right, Tesla. Yep. Do you know where your 10 mil socket is? Oh, there's an inside shot. Of course I do. There's an inside shot of Nick and Alexander inside of Dragon. Gary, I'm talking!
Video. We now have views from...
Dang it, man! Yep, Alexander's over here. Nick's up there. They're scrolling through the checklists here for getting this sucker open.
Just off to the right there, Mission Specialist Alexander Gorbanov, Roscosmos cosmonaut, two of them are working through the procedures.
Who are the other two?
Configure the cabin that you're seeing
that's
there.
Nick over there.
Inside Dragon.
That's Alexander over there. The other two are extras. No, that's their empty
you see
space
the suits that they wore for launch,
Gary,
as well as docking.
Stop infringing on my territory, or am I infringing on his territory?
Right now, they're in a configuration such that they can be dried in between use.
Yeah, you don't want.
Aside from the next.
Okay, why are they drying the suits? Well, human sweat. That happens. I don't know if you knew that. If you're a lizard person, human sweat. I don't know if you knew it. So the thing about the humidity inside of the suit is that the water isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to evaporate. And that's a really thermal control systems and humidity control systems. So the climate inside of the ISS, the HVAC systems are really important. They have to dry the suits out because, like I said, that water vapor wouldn't go anywhere. And then you get a moldy spacesuit. I'm pretty sure you don't want that. Pretty sure moldy spacesuit, probably not ideal. So that's why they're drying the suits out, just to be sure. Yeah, look up what happened on Mir when you don't have the right thermal control systems on board. Like, or if they malfunction. Yeah, it's gross. Yeah. Swamp suit is the best name for it. Yeah. Oh, man. I thought it heard me. Nobody wants swamp butt in space. You know what I'm saying? I love mold. I collect spores, molds, and fungus. Actually, people were asking me about the control systems on Dragon. I told you there were buttons on the armrest. You can actually see them right there.
Again, there is a hatch. Multiple hatches, actually.
Taking pictures. Sonny's taking pictures.
We are seeing that the A-Pass hatch is open on the International Space Station side.
Ah!
The vestibule in between the two spacecraft have been
pressurized
to meet that of sea level on the ground.
All right. I guess I got to join them.
The position where Haig and Gorbanov currently are very close to the Dragon hatch. Now with the A-Pass hatch opened,
All right, now we're good.
Some of the flashes you were seeing from inside the pressurized mating adapter or cameras, and the flashes of the cameras to inspect the hatch. Make sure there's no foreign object debris, just a safety measure and precaution to make sure that nothing is in the way. That will be documented and relayed to the ground for inspection. Make sure everything's good.
Yep.
Some of the many steps of these hatch opening procedures that we've been referencing.
Actually, we usually don't get to see... Where are they? We don't get to see footage like this usually, of them, like, packing up the suits. Now my brain is started. Yeah, yours? I don't even know where to point anymore, man. All right. Okay. All right, then we're good. Now do a backflip? No, River. I don't want to do a flip. I got back problems or something. You know, you don't want to. You don't want to hurt the. This doesn't make any sense anymore. This joke sucks. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. This is fine. You know, let's just go back to normal. Hey. Oh, okay, Chief. I'm just making sure we're still tied into audio here. Yeah, we are. How do they shave their beards? Dote, you ever seen Wayne's World? You know the suck cut? Well, as you can see, it sucks and it cuts. Yeah. The suck cut is a revolution in home hair cutting. What a totally amazing, excellent discovery. If you haven't seen it, it's basically a vacuum cleaner and a pair of clippers kind of combined. It certainly does suck. Why does this keep popping up? Thank you. Yeah, I realize that it's crude. Whoa! See, he's doing it on purpose. I gotta refresh. Hold on. You're doing that on purpose. You see that? Extreme close up. Whoa! Do a barrel roll. Yep, see, they're taking the covers off now. Imagine smacking your head. That happened, Hermiat. We've seen it happen. It happened on DM2. Doug came through the hatch and hit his head on the top. And it's, yeah, during the press conference, he was like, yeah. They're like, what's wrong with your head? He's like, nothing. Nothing, we're good.
This is Mission Control Houston following along. Again, the APAS hatch is
that
open.
a KSP shirt you see?
On the
Kerbal Space Academy,
International
but yeah,
Space
close
Station
enough.
side. There's one more hatch to go, and that's
I am
on the
an
Dragon side.
instructor.
Nick Hague and Alexander Bogdanov currently waiting
Oh,
patiently inside Dragon Freedom, going through their incremental steps to make sure the hatches can be opened at a safe time. You saw the
Triple
NASA
box
astronauts in the pressurized mating adapter
Nice.
bring in a white cloth. This is part of the procedures of outfitting the hatch for ingress. The hatch itself is metallic and has been exposed to vacuum. As a safety measure, the hatch itself is being covered with this white cloth. There's also a docking fixture that's used. It's sort of a pole that sticks out from the back end of the APAS hatch.
I don't think so, Chief. I think you got to keep clean shaven.
Has been removed,
but who knows?
as it is an obstacle to crews ingressing through that hatch.
Speaking of KSP, if they made a KSP
Walking
movie,
through
who would you
steps
rather see play
incrementally.
Jeb? Jack Black or Chris Pratt?
The crew seems to be on the timeline right now, so we're expecting the hatch opening to happen within the next 30 minutes or so of Dragon.
Chris Pratt.
Right now, we're looking at a gap in our
Chris Tucker.
video coverage from the station. Hoping
Tom
to
Hanks. What?
beat that gap so we can see some of the crew members enter. But we will be providing continuous coverage through that hatch opening, and when the crew are formally welcomed on board the International
Could be
Space
Bill and
Station,
Bob.
there will be a formal ceremony.
Yes.
In this shot that you're seeing right now, you can actually see the bell, ceremonial bell, which will be rung upon the ingress of the 2 crew members on board Dragon Freedom, welcoming them and joining Expedition 72, rounding out 11 members of 72.
Hi, Ben. Hi, Ben. How you doing? Hi, Ben. Ben. What's up?
3-box view that you're seeing from inside the station.
Oh,
on
it's
the
just like
bottom
watching
right,
Red
inside
Zone.
Dragon, bottom left. Again,
I like that
astronaut
one, Go.
Nick Hague on the top right corner of the screen. From that Dragon cabin view, Gorbatov you see behind some of the seats on the view from the bottom left. And we are seeing Dragon illuminated by the sun a little bit until an orbital sunset. As expected just minutes from now, the views on the outside of station will become a little darker as the station and Dragon pass 260 statute miles over the northern Atlantic Ocean.
Do they go outside for a smoke? Yeah. No. Fire in space, not bad. Fire in space, bad. Living good. Yeah. No. You want me to buy a subscription to the Saturday Evening Post? No. Sponsored by Wall Clippers. That's what I use. I had Wall Clippers.
More
Give myself this haircut with Wall Clippers. No joke.
Into view.
No hat.
In the red shirt
cap or whatever.
There on the left, Roscosmos cosmonaut.
Whatever those
Alexei
kids say.
Ovchinin,
Oh, they're waving through the hatch. See that?
Crewmate of Nick
Doing all
Hague
right,
on
Zarek. Yep,
his
yep.
Soyuz flight to the International Space Station. They rode together aboard a Soyuz to the International Space Station and joined for their expedition.
There you go,
before
Astro.
returning.
They're good Clippers. Real
Now
good
reunited
Clippers.
in space.
So that's Michael Barrett over there. That's Alexei Ovchinin right there. Sonny Williams is over there. It's Matt Dominic.
Step 4.8 is complete. Step 4.9 station is ready for Dragon hatch equalization.
Dude, see, he clicked his feet together, Dorothy side. You did that on purpose, Matt. That man is playing Galaga.
Mike, we are not quite ready on our side. We'll let you know when
Have
we
you
are.
seen the 4K stream? Oh, I've been acquainted with that.
Holding at
Just-
4.9.
that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Mike Barrett relaying that the crew
What's
is
the bell
ready
for? Ringing a
hatch
new ship
equalization.
coming into
Doing
port.
a few things on the ground.
Spacex Freedom on the big loop.
Where are the other? Hold on.
Holding in 4.9. So we're ready for the hatch to come open.
Okay, here we go. The 2 other suits. So one was already up there, Czar, as a spare, and the other one is on the Dragon. The one that's up there, the spare, fit Sonny, which is cool.
Copies. We'll be waiting for the ground to be ready for equalization, and that's going to keep us in section 6 of 4.400. You'll see us take commands and
NASA's
the
audio is
change
so
in step
bad.
6.2 when we're ready to go.
I can barely hear them. Hold on, guys. I'm going to boost this. And then the suit that...
And copy that. And just a question on estimate on how long that'll take. We're coming up on our hour of drying time.
There we go. And the...
Ground check that. We got 15 minutes. We'll just wait.
The spare suit that's on Dragon,
Copy Copy. Yeah, we're still a few minutes away from stepping into equalization, and we're tracking about just over 14 minutes left in dry time.
They brought up for Butch.
We'll see if those deconflict, but we won't let the suit drying stop us from proceeding if we're already ready to step into that.
Where can I buy genuine spaceman pants? If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
And Houston on the big loop. The APAS hatch seals look great.
That's
and
Michael Barrett
no
talking?
condensation noted. We did take a picture of the docking cross. That also looks great.
Houston copies.
Jeanette Epps coming out there. She opened the hatch. This is Alexei Ovchinin over here.
Crew aboard Station and Freedom, eager to open up that hatch. Just need to make sure everything's set on the ground. Teams are carefully analyzing all the data to make sure they are ready for that hatch equalization. In the meantime, you saw the crew did an inspection of the APAS hatch, the one that's open there in the background, just on the far end.
Alexander Grebenkin right
here.
here.
The pressurized mating adapter. That has again been outfitted for safety
Jeanette
precautions
over
with
there.
claws. The docking cross has been removed.
I'll link you up the 4K stream, dude.
From Ingress.
Yeah, it's by YouTube channel called
In addition
Sens.
to noting and inspecting the APAS hatch,
Go check it out.
photographs for the ground to
really
analyze. The crew
good.
did report that the APAS hatch looks great. Good news. And allows for the teams to continue towards
I got you,
an
Fiddle.
on-time opening.
That's
of the
Don
hatch
Pettit over there.
and welcoming of
All
the crew
right.
aboard the International Space Station.
He's doing a long duration mission. He
Again,
came up on a
Haig in the
Soyuz
background
MS-2.
of the Dragon.
Came up on Soyuz MS-26, and he's gonna turn 70 while he's on his stay, which is actually super cool. That's really neat. I think that's pretty awesome. One of the older ones that have been up there, which is cool. Don Pettit's a freaking legend, dude. He was there at the start of the ISS program, basically, which is pretty cool. He's also got a real Doc Brown vibe to him, if you can tell by him bouncing up and down.
Ovchinin there, of course,
I'd be doing
former
that all
crewmate
day.
of Haig. They launched together aboard their Soyuz mission to the International Space Station.
Sonny is
and will be reunited at the welcoming ceremony.
popping out there. Yeah, see, he's looking into the camera. He's doing that on purpose. Look at this. Look at this nerd. See, he's looking at the camera every time. Oh, you get this? You following me, camera guy? Yo, you're doing that on purpose. I mean, I don't blame you. I'd be doing the same
Haig
thing.
and Ovchinin did, of course, have
Right, Scott!
an abort after the launch of their Soyuz MS-10 mission. But both of them did get to go up and join the crews of Expedition 59 and 60, launching successfully aboard Soyuz MS-12 and completing their expedition aboard the International Space Station and safely returning to Earth. Again, the two reunited.
We're in space. Weight has nothing to do with it. Does ocean exploration interest you? It's cool, Sunshine, but not as much as space flight does. But it is cool. Do red shirts versus black shirts mean anything? It's the vessel that you came up in. Everybody that's wearing a black shirt, I've noticed, came up on a Dragon. Anybody that's wearing a red shirt came up on Soyuz.
Well, I know you're busy.
It's puppy time.
It's puppy time.
Hey, buddy.
I wanted you to look at the time and then tell you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're gonna... Yeah, you probably should just figure that food stuff out, huh?
Yeah.
All right. All right, I'll find my own food, babe.
No.
What?
The dog. Yesterday you were like, does he always have to go out around this time?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So he was being, all right,
yeah.
Cool.
All right, yeah,
cool.
That's all.
Yep, got you.
No, I'll wait for you for food. Don't worry.
Okay.
I had a sandwich, so I'm good.
All right. Titan and Bree, say hi. That's my wife and my dog. Don't eat the dog. No. We're not doing that. I'm surprised short haircuts aren't a thing. Every dude up there has basically this haircut. $19 is the record, Chief, that we tied when Polaris Dawn was up there. Oh, nice, Corsi, my guy. That's Alexander Grabenkin. That's upside down there. Okay, it looks like the A-Pass hatch is open, and there's just Dragon's hatch behind that, so... You're telling you go to space with long hair? Sure. Why not? Sunny's up there. Jeanette's up there. They have long hair. Jeanette has hers in like a headband though. Sunny gives no fricks. It's just everywhere. It's kind of cool. Not gonna lie, if I could do that, I would do that, but I can't do that because, you know, this thing going on right there. So
3 Roscosmos
cool.
cosmonauts in view on this view on the right. Who recently came through the pressurized mating adapter was Ivan Wagner, Alexei Ovchinin, now making his way through pressurized mating adapter.
Probably Boom Boom, yeah. They're probably wraparounds, dude.
Alexander Grabenkin currently taking the frame in the black shirt. All Expedition 72 crew members will be present when Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov ingress the International Space Station. It's part of a formal welcoming ceremony. We'll continue our coverage until the crew and the ground teams have an opportunity to provide remarks during that ceremony.
Sporting the same haircut as me.
Right now, again, the Node 2 hatch in the foreground of this view, as well as the A-Pass hatch, both on the International Space Station side that's in the background, much further into the pressurized mating adapter. Both of them are open. As the teams in space now, both on the International Space Station side as well as the Dragon side, both ready for opening up the final hatch.
Oh. Guess not. So that just happened.
Jamming.
So again, the astronauts in space are ready to go, just waiting for those ground teams and finding ways to pass the time.
Station and Dragon Houston on the big loop. Stand by for equalization. We're expecting it to take 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, copy that. Give them copies.
More or less, Eric, but no, they didn't. Starliner came back down with nobody on board, and the 2 astronauts that went up on it, Barry Wilmore and Sonny Williams, were just rotated into the regular ISS rotation. So the Dragon, if you notice, 2 of the seats are empty. It's just Nick and Alexander aboard, and yeah, they'll just come back down when basically do that job, and they'll just come back down later. Freaking Grabenkin, he's doing that on purpose. They paused. Yeah, Garlic Hat. Are they posted on duty? Some people are on duty to do the technical checklists for the hatch, but everybody's there as a welcoming ceremony. They've paused their duties. The Russian mission control in Korolev is controlling the Russian segment because everybody's up in the U.S. segment right now. Everybody's up at the front of the station. They're all there. At least I've seen all of them there. So Butch and Sonny are still active members of the astronaut corps. They never weren't. They're just test pilots, Sevi. And boys, that's hefty. Yeah, your fluids shift around and you look like you have a fat head when you're in space. Yeah, they always were, Sevi. They just decided to rotate them into the ISS crew rotation. Everyone here is part of the astronaut or cosmonaut corps. Actually, I don't think there's any Europeans up there right now. No, it's just Russians and Americans right now. If I'm thinking about that right. If everyone is there, who's flying? Mission control, like I told you. No Chinese? No, the International Space Station does not, we don't work with the Chinese. The Chinese have their own station, Tiangong, and they have 3 taikonauts up there right now. That's a different station, though. How do you know that no one is not peeing? Shut up, my bands. The international, but not international, but international. Yeah. And third fear, yeah, we don't work with the Chinese. If you guys want to realize, if you guys want to understand why like nobody else works with them, Intelsat 708, look up that in the 90s. That's the reason why we're like, nope, we're not going to do that. It's a business deal that went pretty bad.
This is Mission Control Houston. For those tuning in, we're continuing to wait for one last step of allowing the hatch pressure to equalize before opening up the final hatch. We've been working through hatch opening sequences over the past hour or so, about an hour and a half since docking at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. The ground teams have instructed the astronauts on board to wait until equalization is achieved before proceeding to open up with the hatch. Hoping to hear that call momentarily. This is a view from inside Dragon Freedom. NASA astronaut Commander Nick Hague in the background there on the comms. Mission specialist Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov there in the foreground.
Yeah, Intelsat 708 is what you want. What the... Not you two, man. Jeez. UTC, Sebi. The rot consumes. It really does, dude. Almost there. Mr. Gorbanov, open that hatch. Yes. Yes. There's actually...
This is Mission Control Houston. You're getting views from both inside the Dragon Freedom cabin as well as from inside the International Space Station Node 2. Astronauts on board both vehicles waiting patiently. We're waiting for a go from ground teams analyzing the pressure inside each of the respective spacecraft and waiting for a go to open up that last hatch, Dragon hatch.
Did they bring up 2 suits for the Boeing crew? No, they brought up 1. There was already a spare up there, and it just happened to fit Sunny by really random coincidence. The other suit that they brought up on Dragon is for Butch, and they made him a suit based off of his measurements that were taken.
Freedom SpaceX for suit dry.
For the EVA suit. For the EVMUs up there. So they made him a custom suit, and SpaceX did it actually pretty quick.
All right, we're happy with the suit dry timer now, so you are go for commanding the suit fan off before we step into hatch opening.
He couldn't keep his original suit?
We'll turn off the suit fan.
I don't think the Starliner suits are not compatible with Dragon and vice versa. Not exactly sure why you'd do that, Hypersonic, but somebody thought that was a good idea somewhere.
See NASA astronaut Nick Hague working on the displays, the console there inside
Alexander
Dragon Freedom.
there.
The command to disable those suit fans is on that console.
It wasn't you? Okay.
Suit fan and suit drying procedures are done after doffing suits through various phases of space flight. For these two astronauts, after doffing the suits after orbital insertion, suit drying was part of the procedures there as well, before they were once again donned prior to the approach initiation burn.
Yeah, Bob, it's just very curious.
Those suits were doffed again after the docking sequence was complete. That includes a soft capture.
Freedom SpaceX on the big loop. We see the suit fans are off. So at this time, you are go for hatch opening per the decal, followed by the remaining actions in 4.400, Section 6.
We can talk more about that later, Bob, if you want, or tomorrow.
In copies, we're going to open the hatch per decal, and then the remaining steps in Section 6, 4.400.
Good, readback, and we'll just follow up after hatch open on the completion of 4.012 as well, but we can go ahead and step into the hatch hops.
War Master. That's Alexei Ovchinin to my left,
your
right. Ivan Wagner is over here. That's somebody's head. That's Matt's head. It's Matthew Dominic over there. I'm just chilling.
With that from the SpaceX mission control teams in Hawthorne, California, relaying that the suit fan command has been successfully initiated and they are go to open up the hatch.
There you go,
We got a
War
great
Master.
view from
Appreciate
inside the space station here, and we're starting to see it illuminate.
There we go. They're opening up the hatch. See the light? You can see the front of Dragon right there. That's it.
And now, with that, we confirm Dragon hatch is open.
Yeah, baby.
6:04 p.m. Central.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Oh, what is that? Boz, 10, gifted 10 subs, and then Twitch gave 4 after that. Thank you very much.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Thank you. They're moving the HVAC tube in there.
SpaceX Freedom hatch is open.
Hey,
Copy, hatch open.
hey, Alex coming on board. Ring the bell.
Freedom arriving.
All right.
The bell has been rung. Alexander Gorbanov, the first through of Crew 9, being welcomed by Expedition 72.
Don't hit your head,
Next
Nick.
up is Crew 9 Commander
did.
Nick Hague.
It was close. It was close, dude.
Crew 9 now aboard the
baby.
International Space Station and joining Expedition 72.
Nicky. So cool. So cool that we have the privilege of watching this. This is great. It's awesome. Sure, Nick. It does look like fun, doesn't it? It's a lot of work to get up there, a lot of work to be up there, but I'd do it. I'd do it. I don't know about you guys. I'd be all about that. That would be amazing. Why do they have red t-shirts? Those are the red shirts are people that are crew that launched up on Soyuz. Blue is Crew 9, and anybody else that's wearing a black shirt is Crew 8. Never be a red shirt in space. Well, Alexei disagrees. I've seen Star Trek. Red shirts are bad. 2 dragons up at the space station, man. That's still cool. It's not the first time that's happened, but it's still rad. Look at this. It's just upside down.
Again, Crew 9 on board the International Space Station. That ingress coming shortly after the hatches were opened at 6:04 p.m. Central Time. Being welcomed by the crew of Expedition 72.
Sure, Sebby.
We're going to continue our coverage here. We have a planned formal welcoming ceremony.
Somebody already... Actually, did you guys see that Associated Press article? Marcia Dunn released an AP article that said SpaceX launches rescue mission.
However, we are coming up on an expected gap in our video communications from the International Space Station.
No, I'm not giving you the
link. So just as the crew was patient with the hatch opening operations, we will be patient with the crew, setting up for the welcome ceremony.
Do I know
recover that video?
What do you mean, do I know the mission? The mission's a good mission.
Just around shortly after 6:30 p.m. Central Time.
I can't believe it, Hibbit. I'm just like, is Boeing watching this? Sure. Also, the BBC, SpaceX on mission to return 2 stranded astronauts. Just... Lottie, I have words, but those words cannot be repeated in polite conversation. I have words, though. I have words. I have opinions about this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got opinions. They're not good opinions, you know. I believe, yeah, mate. You know what I'm saying? I have some choice words. Oh, extreme close up. Whoa. He's asking about other missions where astronauts have gone up and come down on different craft. Sonny did that. Sonny flew up on one shuttle, stayed up there, and came back down on another one. That was the norm, Pi. When the shuttle was flying, I mean, Pi, you know. Good question. But, yeah, there are other... Yeah, that happened during the shuttle program all the time. The shuttle would go up with 7 and come back down with 7, but 6 people on board the shuttle would just be there for the shuttle mission, and then they'd rotate one crew out. That happens all the time. Or 2 or 3. It really depends on the mission. But I know Sonny has flown up on one shuttle and came down on another a little bit later. That's what they used to do. Yeah, Chief. I was asking with a different type of capsule. Ooh, has anybody ever gone up on one and come down on another? That's a good question.
Again, Haig and Gorbanov on board the International Space Station. Gorbanov in frame right now, but they're going to take some time and speak with some of their crewmates. But we will be continuing our coverage.
Oh, he gave him the rabbit ears.
Through the formal welcoming ceremony.
Barrett gave him the rabbit ears. You see that? Would Adrian know that answer?
There is an expected gap in our video communication from the International Space Station.
I know there's been crew that came up on one Soyuz and
so
down
we'll
on another.
Continue our coverage until that video is regained.
And I know that there are, astronauts that went up on the shuttle and came down on a different shuttle. I'm not sure about different spacecraft. I want to say, could be pulling this out of my tail, that there have been astronauts that launched up on Soyuz and came down on the shuttle, but I'm not 100% sure.
Stay tuned for the formal welcoming ceremony of Crew 9 to join Expedition 72.
I'd be doing flips all day too, I'm not gonna lie. It's been so long, hard to remember. Yeah, Bob, I'm not sure. You guys got to remember that the crew exchange is not new. That's been a thing basically since the start of the ISS. The first expedition, Expedition 1, had 2 Russians and an American on it. Bill Shepard launched on the first Soyuz to the ISS. And Russians flew on the space shuttle. One of the Russians that Bill Shepard flew with, yes, that's his name, was Sergei Krikalev. Sergei Krikalev flew on STS-88. He flew on the shuttle. He's one of the first Russians to do it. So it's possible that at some point somebody launched up on a shuttle and came down on a Soyuz and vice versa, but I want to say that happened, but I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look. Nah, we'll save that for another time, Carolox. Yeah, it's a Debbie Downer. I don't want to talk about that right now. What is the temperature on the ISS? It's 20, I think it's like 20 C. It's 70 degrees. Yeah. Is there a height limit for astronauts? It depends on the spacecraft, Cryo. Don Pettit's in the Dragon capsule right there. Yeah, but that's the same spacecraft. That's a good question, Gene. I don't know. After the shuttle was grounded, so a crew switched to the Russian capsules for return temporarily. So yeah, it's possible that somebody launched up on a shuttle and came back down on Soyuz. Did they leave the hatch open while docked? Yes, Tucker, they do. You don't want stale air up at the ISS. Like, yeah, stale air is bad. You got to keep the air moving. Got to keep the air moving, because think about when you breathe, right? If when you exhale, that can just sit there. There's no gravity to kind of separate it. So you got to keep the HVAC systems going. And they basically, if you notice, if they show a picture of the passageway into Dragon, there's a rubber line, like an HVAC hose, and that's keeping positive pressure inside of the Dragon. Has Don been on Dragon before? I don't think so, Nervous. No, he definitely hasn't. Don has flown on Soyuz, obviously the Soyuz he launched it in, but he's been on other Soyuz flights, and I'm pretty sure he flew on the shuttle as well. Let me just double check myself. He flew on STS-113. Oh, there you go. He flew on STS-113 and... hold on. TMA-1. 2002 mission. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Yeah, Don Pettit flew up to the space station on STS-113 on Endeavour and then down on TMA-1. So there you go. It did happen. Yeah, see, I knew that happened. And Don Pettit is the guy that did it. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. But yeah, there's your answer. The guy that's up on the ISS flew up on a shuttle and came down on a Soyuz. That was 113. So that was that a long time ago. That was 2002. That was 22 years ago. That's how long Don Pettit's been an astronaut. Don Pettit also flew on STS-126. And then he flew on Soyuz TMA-03M, and now MS-26. TMA was the last version of Soyuz before this one. MS stands for Modernized Soyuz in Russian. Don't question the Don, you're dang right. Yeah, see, there's the HVAC tube right there. See what I'm talking about? Hello, does the ISS constantly have to keep at altitude because Earth is trying to pull it down? Yes, Powerman. Yeah, they have to boost the station constantly. Yep. The Zvezda module that's on the very back of the ISS has thrusters. They're little tiny thrusters, but it's thrusters. You don't need a lot to keep it up there. But believe it or not, yeah, the atmosphere, even up at 270 miles or 400 kilometers and change, it's still up there. The solar panels actually cause drag. They slow the thing down, but it's only a little bit. It's not a lot. Like you're not poking your head out of the ISS and going, I love that fresh space smell. Clink. You know, you will die. There's not enough up there to breathe, but there's still enough to cause drag. There is air up there. It's just not a lot. Certainly not enough for your lungs to lung correctly. But yeah, absolutely. So what they usually do is they could use the thrusters on Zvezda, but there is a...
now in a short handover of our video and audio from the International Space Station, as expected.
Interesting, Sebi, right?
This was tracked before we initiated a go to proceed with the formal welcome ceremony. Wanted to make sure we got good views from inside.
Yeah, clever girl. That's a really good point.
This handover is expected to last a couple of minutes before...
Clever girl in the YouTube chat brought up a really, really cool fact. I didn't realize that. Guy, the first astronaut to receive a Dragon capsule at the ISS was Don Pettit. He's the one that captured the first Dragon mission to the ISS. That was back when Dragon couldn't dock; it had to be berthed. You're right, dude. He's been doing this for a long time, man. That's right. That's bizarre. But yeah, they can, with the station, they can also use a progress capsule. So the version of Soyuz that's designed for resupply missions, it's basically a disposable version of Soyuz with no heat shield. That's what the Russians use to launch supplies. It's called Progress. It launches on the same rocket. It's basically the same exact thing without a heat shield, right? And no seats. They use the Progress capsules. They can attach it to the very back end of the station and fire the capsule to boost it if they need to. Was that Dragon 1? Yes. Dragon 1 needed to be berthed. So from CRS 1 all the way to CRS 19, Dragon 1. That needed to be berthed. And then SpaceX switched to the Dragon 2 design, which uncrewed resupply and crewed Dragon 2s can dock to the ISS. SpaceX only has 2 of those resupply Dragons. They only need 2. You got to understand the resupply stuff is they only need those every once in a while because there's a bunch of resupply vehicles. There's Cygnus, which is the cockroach of spaceflight vehicles. It's never going away. It's just there. It'll just keep going. Cygnus is inevitable. That's what I like to tell people. There will be uncrewed Dream Chaser with Shooting Star, which should launch a couple of months, 2 to 3 months maybe. There's Progress for resupply. And then Starliner and Dragon, when they launch people, do carry some supplies. But out of all those resupply vehicles, yeah, you don't need to launch uncrewed Dragon very much. Cygnus, or Sigma, as the kids call it. Are they using the tunnel as storage space? That's right, Jahaze. Yeah, they use it as storage space. Mm-hmm. Any date for IFT5? At the very least, November. Matty D. Matty Doms checking out the other Dragon Freedom. Wait until these kids learn about Ligma. Ligma is better than Sigma. Yep. Yeah, Matt and Nick talking right there. I'm sure they're shooting the snot right now. Hey, you got the leather seats. Yeah, right. I mean, if I'm right about Matt, right? He's probably in there peeping the differences between his Dragon capsule and this Dragon capsule. It's like if you're a Formula One fan, like when Sebastian Vettel would go peep on other people's cars. If I think I know that guy, I mean the guy that was doing backflips on camera for fun, when they would show he's probably peeping the Dragon, doing a Sev. He's like, nice car. Yeah.
Station should be a little bit more steady about 10 minutes from now, maybe less than 10 minutes. Again, this is a live view from the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Teams here have been overseeing Dragon's approach and docking.
Houston, SpaceX
We all
Freedom.
do.
I was just looking for a go to get into location 23 and cover up my LIO before the timer expires.
Look at those fancy
Checking, Nick.
names.
Teams in this room, again, as part of Orbit 3, the shifts in this room are 24/7. So 3 shifts per day, every day of the year, making sure that astronauts aboard the International Space Station, who have been there continuously for coming up on 24 years.
Yep.
Making sure that they have everything they need and they're well looked after. And it's from this room that it happens. Marcos Flores is the flight director overseeing the operations today from approach and docking.
Houston on 2 for Nick. We are go for step 6.3.
Copy, go for 6.3. Thank you.
Commander Nick Hague of Crew 9, NASA astronaut, proceeding with some of the closeout duties of the Dragon cabin ahead of our welcome ceremony. Again, Marcos Flores is the flight director today on the bottom of the screen. Tess Caswell is the voice from here in Mission Control up to the crew. She's the one communicating from Houston up to the crew.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats for the Dragon 2 fleet. So there's Endeavor, Resilience, Freedom, and Endurance. And then there's 2 resupply Dragons right now, C209 and C211, and that's it. They don't have names. Or no, there's 208 as well, so there's 3, excuse me. And then C213 is Crew 10, which is going to be a new Dragon capsule. Yeah, SpaceX is building one more. Are they thinking or planning ISS V2? So, team, what NASA wants to do after the ISS is gone is replace it with commercial operated space stations and then fly commercial crew missions to commercially operated space stations and then do NASA science on board these space stations. Basically, think like a timeshare for a space station. That's what they're trying to do. NASA wants to get out of the operating space stations in low Earth orbit business and hand it over to the commercial market, which I think they've proved out that this is a viable way to do things. The reason why is because they want to free up some cash to go to focus on BLEO activities beyond low Earth orbit. Do you think Sonny is going to retire after this? Maybe. Seb needs to come back. However, mysterious Sebastian Sprader recently completed a 340-kilometer bike race in Switzerland. Is Capcom always still astronauts? Most of the time, Bob, yeah. It's Michael Barrett coming out of PMA2 there. Oh, you left your iPad, dude. Oh, that's so weird. It's so weird. It just floats there. All right. That's weird. Is it really an iPad? Yes. Yeah, I agree with you, Labbits, yeah.
And SpaceX Freedom, Step 6.5, the LiO cartridge is sealed and installed. That's cartridge 1's back in the active, sealed.
Those are their CO2 scrubbers, guys.
All right, next SpaceX copy is LiO 1 is back in the active slot, but is sealed.
Yeah, Mateus, exactly. NASA freeing up that capital and SpaceX basically having NASA's budget because of Starlink. It's
We're
not
hearing
a bad
conversations
thing,
about the LiO cartridges. These are lithium hydroxide cartridges that provide scrubbing of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Station Houston, on to any available crew for PAO scene setup.
Logix, they're not really rescuing them. NASA just decided to roll the crew from the Starliner mission over into regular ISS operations. That was the safest way to do things. I wouldn't really call it a rescue, but I mean, if you want to call it that, then yes. But it's not going to technically bring them back to. Hi, Jeanette. It's technically not going to bring them back down until February 2025 because NASA just rolled them into normal ISS logistics. Now, the reason why they did that is because you don't want to. So the ISS has a supply chain, just like everything else. Like there's supply vehicles that need to be launched at certain times. There's crew vehicles need to be launched at certain times, right? You want to keep the ISS logistics going correctly. And launching another rescue, oh geez, why are there pants everywhere? This is predominant, isn't it? Yep. And interfering with those operations by sending up, like rushing a spacecraft up there or interfering with the supply chains is, I mean, it's not too risky. They could do it, but just roll them into the regular crew. If they're cool with it, that's the easiest way because you don't have to launch another spacecraft now, you know? They have a microphone that they can grab. They're okay. Hair. Sonny's got that Medusa thing going on. Matty D. Oh, he hit his head. Oh, he hit his head on the hatch. Matt. Oh, that hurts. We've seen other astronauts bang their head on that and get cuts. Oh, he did a Doug. He did a Doug. He did the Dougie. Oh no. Did you see that? Ow. That thing is sharp, man. So Jeanette Epps on the far right, Sonny Williams right there, Don Pettit over there. Hang on. Let me cut their audio back in. Now, this is all muted. We're not hearing that comm loop. But see the toothbrush right there? That's the microphone. But it looks like an electric toothbrush. Nick, don't hit your head, I swear. Everybody hits their head on that damn thing. Oh, he was close. Everybody hits their head on the CBM hatch. What brand are those astronaut cargo shorts? I don't know, but I want a pair. Halloween early, I see. Houston, we had an owie. Yeah, that hurts, man. Like, I wouldn't know. I've never been up there, but...
Okay.
We most definitely... Hold on, I'm gonna go. We most definitely saw Doug Hurley hit his head on that, and it started bleeding everywhere. That's audio on board.
Probably still need me to talk longer so you can see if we got sync. Oh, I knew. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello to all my friends in the PAO office.
It's still funny, man. I don't know. So somebody I haven't seen on camera yet is Butch. I'm not sure what Butch is up to. I agree, Pop-Tart. I think that's him over there, but I don't know. I haven't seen him. Is this the most people that they had at one time up on the space station? No, believe it or not. When the space shuttle came up there, it got a little crowded. Space shuttle had 7 crew. Which was on Starliner. He snuck in on it and flew it home. Nice. All right, so we got... Yahoo! That's Nick Hague right here. Alexander Gorbanov. Oh, there he is. It's Barry Wilmore right there. Jeanette Epps over in the top left. That's Alexander Grabenkin behind Nick. Michael Barrett is up halfway off the screen. Yvonne Wagner is guy on the left in the red. Don Pettit is in the center in red, and Alexei Ovchinin is the guy on the right in the red shirt. And then Sonny Williams is on the far right there. The only person we're missing at this point is Matthew Dominic. Oh, he's back there. He's behind Michael. There he is. There it is. That's your whole crew right there. It's cool, man. It's a lot of people.
Houston, are you ready?
I'm there too. I even got the right shirt on. No, roundabout, not really. They were actually swapped out some Lyo cartridges just a second ago, so obviously not a big deal. There have been more people on the space station than this. Once again, guys, they would, back in the day, you'd have 2 Soyuz crews up there for 6, right? And then the shuttle would launch with a crew of 7 and leave one up there. So this isn't the most, but this is a good amount.
This is Mission Control Houston. Crew is standing by to begin the welcome ceremony, just configuring a few technical things on the ground to enable all crew members and on each of the control rooms to be able to hear the welcome ceremony. Just stand by a few minutes. We'll be beginning momentarily.
What watches do they have? Omegas, if I'm remembering right. They're Omega Speedmasters, Ilona, if you really want to know. But it looks like Nick has a different watch on than Barry over there. And it looks like Nick and Alexander have the same watch. But they're Omegas. Omegas, if you want an astronaut watch, you get an Omega. That's right, Wiz. It looks like Jeanette Epps has a Casio on over there. That looks like an old school Casio watch, which that's pretty rad. They all look like they ate an edible. Well, look, Country, wouldn't you be pretty pumped if you were up there? I'd be pretty happy. I'm smiling like that too, and I'm not even there. Or am I? You know? ISS Hotbox, that's something you do not want, man. Vargun, can you imagine if you start getting paranoid up there? That would be awful. That would be awful. No. Absolutely not. That would suck. Oh man, what if this window breaks, dude?
2, 3, 4, 5.
That would be terrible, dude. That would suck so much. I always have this conversation with people all the time. Like, can you imagine getting drunk up there? That would be terrible. That's no good at all. That would suck. That would suck. You already don't know which way is up when you're down here. Can you imagine actually not knowing which way is up? That would be terrible. I know there's a leak somewhere, bro. Yeah, I know, man. What if this window blew out, man? That would be awful. Like, we'd all die. It's like, what? No! It will follow wherever humans go basis, that's for sure. Please don't press your face against the glass. Yeah, man, but what if I was out there right now? Like, you're not.
Tracy Terry, all I heard was Tracy Terry.
Очень хорошо.
Хорошо. Это хорошо, да.
Суд Москвы, отвечаю в СГ-2. Проверяем связь. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Как вы слышите меня?
4 Russian up there if you want to know.
Отлично.
So there's Alexander and Alexei and Ivan. Yes, there's 2 named Alexander and 1 named Alexei. Yes. Looks like they're giving Blue Alexander crap right now, from what I can tell. Hell, what? Oh no, not you, Blue. Blue Alexander, not Black Alexander. What's the main material that the ISS uses? So,
Station Houston, are you ready for the event?
Matt, aluminum, mostly. Titanium.
We are ready for the event.
And aluminum works really well as a spaceflight module. Really nervous? Wait, really? Yeah, it's aircraft grade aluminum.
Station Houston, we are ready as well. Over to you to welcome the new members of the crew.
Yeah, baby.
On behalf of Expedition 72, I just want to say welcome to our new compadres from Dragon Freedom. Alex, welcome to the International Space Station. And Nick, welcome back home to the International Space Station. It's great to be here with bringing the 72 back up to 11.
Yeah, baby.
Thanks, Sonny. Alex and I had a smooth ride up here, and so first off, I just want to say thank you to the teams that got us ready to fly Freedom to the station, and it was a awesome ride. And coming through the hatch and seeing all the smiles, and as much as I've laughed and cried in the last 10 minutes, I know it's going to be an amazing expedition, so I'm really looking forward to getting to work up here.
Yeah, you can't drop the mic. No mic
So I'm
drops
very happy to be here in this huge, amazing laboratory, International Space Station. And I'm looking forward to working with this crew, Expedition 72, and with people who are supporting us on the ground, MCC Houston, MCC Moscow. Также хотел поблагодарить НАСА вместе со Spacex и Роскосмос, которые продолжают сотрудничать по программе МКС, продвигают науку, эксперименты космические вперед. И хотел поблагодарить всех родных и близких за то, что меня поддерживали в этом путешествии, которое только начинается. Завтра первый рабочий день. Начнем работать. Спасибо.
Blue Alexander speaks really good English. He's pretty good.
Thank you for the words. At this time, Glavny has an additional message for Nick and Alex.
It's the different spacecrafts that they came up. Anybody who's wearing black is up there on a Dragon or going down on a Dragon.
Суд Москвы на связи. Я надеюсь, вы меня сейчас хорошо слышите. Я приветствую всех. Здравствуйте, добрый вечер. Ника и Александра, мы приветствуем отдельно, особо поздравляем с благополучным прибытием на борт и началом космической вахты. Удачи вам. Долгим разговором сейчас утомлять не буду, потому что, понимаю, насыщенный день, вы устали. Благодарю за внимание. Удачи, удачи, еще раз удачи от всех нас. Мы на связи и готовы вам помочь всегда.
That was Russian Mission Control. I don't know if you got the memo. That's correct, Ender. Yeah, you got it. You got to know a little bit. Don Pettit is fluent in Russian. So is Sonny, I'm pretty sure.
Спасибо за теплые слова. Будем работать с завтрашнего дня, да. Начнем космическую вахту, посмотрим, сколько продлится.
That's right, Thomas. Yeah. You see that?
And with that, thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
Butch got the I seen some stuff haircut going on. He's like, yeah, I seen some things. All right, there we go. That was your docking and welcoming ceremony for the Crew 9 crew. Crew 8 will be coming down in a week, and the Crew 9 crew will be up there until February when Crew 10 launches. February 2025, that is. Yeah, I seen his ship leave with... He's got the look going on. Does just breathing act kind of like RCS? Yeah, but you don't produce enough thrust to push the whole meat suit around, Katra, but yeah, I mean, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? But you want Butch to look at the camera and just say aliens, you know. $14 people in space right now? No, there's 11. So we got 2 Dragon crews of 4 and 1 Soyuz crew of 3. Tessa, don't bad juju. Clever. Yeah, no problem. Great show. Yeah, that's at the ISS, Gwen. There's also 3 Chinamen up there on the Tiangong space station, yeah. Can Matt just stay there? Well, Don Pettit has good pictures too, so 11 that we know of. Bum, bum, bum. All right, guys. It is Sunday. I'm going to go enjoy what's left of my weekend. Crew 9 decided to launch on the weekend, and I don't miss crew launches, so that was great. Thanks for covering. My pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you guys all tomorrow at noontime. We got workers. And then Satisfactory on Tuesday. So, yeah. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you guys want to talk more about Intelsat 708, we could do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow for space news if you want. So just remind me, and I'll tell you about it. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. Thank you, everybody that liked and subscribed today. Actually, just not like. I mean, you can like the YouTube video if you want. I don't really care. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow at noontime. My normal start time, noontime Eastern. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. Appreciate the coverage. Appreciate you watching. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you later. Have a good rest of your weekend.